What is going on, everybody? Kenton was getting his chair closer. He's excited for today's live stream. Look at that hair. He is ready to party, buddy. I
Yeah.
love it. I hope everyone's having a great week. You guys know the deal. Let's get this intro out of the way. For those who do not know, THORChain is the world's leading Bitcoin DEX. You can swap Bitcoin with 10 different blockchains across 40 different pools without using bridges or wrap tokens. Check it out at swap.thorchain.org, swap.thorchain.org. Anyone in the world can use THORChain. There is no account to open, no KYC required, and privacy is a human right. THORChain has two tokens, Rune and TCY. The fees for swapping on THORChain are paid in Rune, and that's where the yield comes from. The fees are deducted from the swap, so you do not need to own Rune to trade on THORChain. That's pretty cool. 10% of the protocol's revenue goes to TCY token holders. Remember, guys, to stake the TCY tokens in order to collect this yield. There are no inflationary block rewards on THORChain, therefore the yield is real money paid by real users, and Rune is also deflationary as 5% of the revenue is burned. THORChain is a full layer 1 with the ability to create smart contracts on it similar to Ethereum. This app layer is being developed by Regira. Definitely check that out. If you need help with THORChain in general, guys, join the THORChain community Discord and Telegram groups. Links for those are on thorchain.org. And also remember, please follow THORChain on Facebook and Instagram and THORChain Contact on TikTok. We need 1,000 followers to live stream on those platforms. Let's get it done, you guys. And always remember, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial investment or legal advice. That's the introduction, you guys. How's everyone doing? I guess I'll introduce myself. My name's Denny. I go by Patriot Sounds. I also help runebond.com. I love Kenton because you have really changed the game when it comes to the spelling of THORChain. I don't guys know, there is a specific way you have to spell THORChain. It's very important. It's Thor, Thor, all caps, and then the C on chains capitalized. THORChain, okay?
Let's
And
do it in the chat.
do it in the chat, Kenton. I want everyone to know that's how you spell THORChain, okay? And we gotta indoctrinate the world. There it is. Look at, feast your eyes upon that beautiful word. Also, Kenton's starting a new thing. When you say the word in real life, it's very important you get the emotional intonation. So you want to shout the first part. So you go THORChain, THORChain,
Yes, I saw.
just
Yeah.
like that. Yes, and so when we go to Las Vegas, we're going to be talking to people. That's how we're going to say, hey, I'm work with THORChain. And that's how we're going to ship you guys. You have to be very confident. What's that?
You got to spit too. Spit in their face. And you would say it too. Yeah.
Without way, I'll kick it to you, Kenton. You got an update for us, man.
Well, actually, here's a good segue, I guess. So, like, guys, I'm sorry this website's taking so long. What I feel like should only take an hour or two takes 10 or 20 hours. And like, just an example. So like I'm redoing the ecosystem page. There's about 80 different websites, wallets, aggregators, explorers, whatever that, touch THORChain. So I'm updating the descriptions. I've been getting their logos for them. I'm using SVG files because so they look nice on the site. SVG scales whether the website is big or small. You get the same quality image, and they're light for the website to host. So that makes the site faster. So I've been hunting down these logos because you can find PNG files everywhere, but SVG files are a bit harder. I have been using AI. I've been able to figure out a way to convert a PNG to an SVG, and then I can actually edit and tweak the SVG a bit to clean it up. So that's actually been pretty cool. But it still takes time, right? Just because I'm using AI doesn't mean I still have to type stuff in. It gets things wrong. I got to fix. But I'm basically it's all done now. And so one of the things when I'm going to these other sites to look up, using THORChain, they spell it wrong on their site, all over the whole site. And so then I got to figure out their contact info, get in touch with them. Hey guys, can you spell THORChain right? And I got to take screenshots and circle it, provide the link on the site. I gotta feed them like babies, right? I gotta make it easy as possible for them. And that just takes time. And so And I do think it's important to be done. This is part of a brand, is that, we need to get that. If we're consistent in the spelling, we fix it when we see the mistakes, that'll percolate into the rest of the world. And, so anyway, so yeah, and if you guys follow me on Twitter, but there's a new article. I have Google Alerts set up for THORChain, and there's an article that came out, and they spelled THORChain right. So, uh, we're winning. Small wins, you guys, small wins.
I
But
love it.
those all those little things, it just takes time. It just adds up. And then I have to follow up. So like a good, like, fine on some random website, who cares about the spelling of THORChain? But on Masari, it does matter. And I got to follow up with them. Oh, sorry, Kenton, it hasn't gone through. A week later, guys, what's going on? So I got to follow up with all these things. It's not as simple as just shoot out an email and it's done. So, um, anyway, so I've been busy doing all these little small things to get the website done. And what I've been some pages that are less important, I'm like, we should just go live. Who cares? We'll fix them later. And I was talking to our SEO person about them, and they're like, well, you kind of want to go live with your best version, because Google will see if someone comes to the page, and the more time they spend on it and the more they do, that feeds into the algorithm that page has value, and then it'll start ranking better SEO. If they come to the page, they don't like it because it looks stupid or is wrong or whatever, and they leave, that page starts losing its value. So by us having a rough draft live could actually set us back a couple months SEO wise for that page. So it is better to go live with kind of like our best version done. So that's part of the holdup, is some of the less important pages. We want to make sure they're done. Um, and then just the designers too. I keep finding this is off center, that's misaligned, there's a gap here or whatever, and I got to get them to fix it all. So, because that's, yeah. So I want to get everything done so that when it goes live, it's done. And this is on the THORChain.org site. The swap interface, we're basically just we're doing the opposite. We're just kind of going live with stuff, and then we got it. We'll fix it as we go, because we're not really like worried about SEO rankings on the swap interface just yet. We like worried about it working, right? And when we go live with this stuff, guys, as always, just be patient, be gentle with your criticisms. This is we're trusting the community to help us troubleshoot, play with it, fix, help us. I need to play with it, live, and so some things might not look right or just don't work. Let me know. We're fixing it. I've got a laundry list of bugs that the Unstoppable is kind of behind on right now, and the reason is because they pushed through. We got 4 new tabs. For writing custom memos, TCY and bonding. And what was the other one? I think there was another one. But those are technically live. But just forewarning, and I told the guys to put a warning on those pages. If you're going to use them, just play with them. Do not use full funds or anything like that. So take them with a grain of salt. Yeah, at least try a small amount first before you do anything more. But they've tested them on their end. But again, it's just once we go to a live environment, well, Chad can answer this better than me. That's when you're live on the official version, is always just slightly different than your test environment. So, but hopefully it should be fine, because if it's just basically these pages are just memos. Either the memo works or it doesn't. So, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything. But so moving along there. Yeah, maybe this will be a good segue in chatting with you, Chad, about rapid swaps. So one of the issues on the front end is the quotes are pulling. So now we have the default setting on STO is for rapid swaps. So it's a streaming swap with 0 number of subswaps and 0 interval. And before, if you had a 0 interval on a streaming swap, that would make it an instant order. It would sell right away. So you'd have the max slippage. And this is what is still in the THORChain code and providing quotes for when you have a setting of 0, 0, THORChain is sending out a quote of an instant sell order with max slippage. So these are the quotes that are showing on STO. And so until Chad gets an update out to fix that, we have to change the quote on the front end to pull from 0, 1. So 0 subswaps and 1 block interval, so that we're pulling the quote from a traditional streaming swap. But the actual behavior, the actual trade that will get executed is a rapid swap, is the time interval set at 0. So I asked the Ensemble devs are in, it's their evening right now. So I asked them, guys, can you get on this, make sure it's done ASAP? So I don't know if they'll be able to get it done tonight, if the guys already went home, or they'll get it done first thing in the morning. But we'll have the quotes fixed here soon. Did I explain that properly, Chad? Do you want to correct me on anything or anything to add? Oh, we can't hear you.
You muted, brother.
Well, so interval equals 0 until rapid swaps didn't really make any sense, because it's just setting like how many blocks do you want to do a sub swap? So like 1 is every block, and 2 is every other block, and 3 is every 3 blocks. To do 0 before rapid swaps would be like, what does that even really mean? You know what I mean? Because 1 is the fastest you could possibly do. So what is 0? And so 0 didn't make any sense before, so we never actually really used 0 in the interval. 0 in the quantity, yes, because that would give you the maximum number of subswaps allowed by the protocol. So we just never used that feature until, just the other week. And so it works just fine, with the exception of it, because some code that was written back in 2023, when you set the interval to 0, it assumes you also mean 0 or 1 maximum swaps as well, which I don't know why I would make that assumption, but it did. And, so it gives you the incorrect timing of like how, or rather, it gives you the incorrect slippage that you would experience. So for the time being, UIs have to just, get a quote from using interval equals 1 for execution, and then you can set interval equals 0 to get the time execution. So 1 for price and 1 is for time, temporarily, until we can fix the correct behavior, and then we get past it. Yeah, small thing, not a big deal though.
I got to actually make sure the quote for time as well.
Yeah.
The quote for price will be interval 1, and quote for time will be interval 0.
Yes, temporarily, yes, till it's fixed, and then it'll work just fine. But yeah, so rapid swaps was enabled last week. A couple people, I know Boone created a dashboard, also Ryan created also another dashboard as well, just kind of tracking the rapid swaps passing through the protocol. We've seen some good adoption from it. I would like to see more. More is more is more in this case. And so, yeah, I mean, if you want to bring it up on a screen share, I don't know if I can screen share or not, but
yeah,
one of these dashboards.
Shout out to Boone, creating Boone tools.
Yeah, Boone tools. I think it's basically a fork of Rune tools that Cow had.
That's what I was wondering. Maybe he should have. Well, he's doing different dashboards, but
yeah. It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not a fork of the code; it's a fork of the concept, I suppose. But yeah, it seems like it's going well overall, and we're waiting for arbs to do more arbing. I'm pretty sure SwapKit hasn't enabled this feature yet. And they obviously do a large percentage of volume. So I assume that once they flip it on, it's going to be even more volume, and it's going to be more utilized as a feature, obviously. Which I'm hoping will be this week or next week, but obviously it's up to them. But so far so good. We just got I've been poking some arbs here and there, like, hey, you guys should get on this. I think as an arb, it's not even hard. I think you just set your interval equals 0 on your trade, and it'll probably just work, magically. So it's not a lot of work per se, but I'm hoping some arbs can just flip it on.
So I have a couple questions here, Chad. I got from people. Let me post it in the chat about rapid swaps, and I'm gonna show it on the screen here. Do rapid swaps cross orders? So, for example, if there's two streaming swaps going, Bitcoin to ETH, it's taking an hour, then somebody else comes along, sells ETH to Bitcoin, it's going to take an hour. Will those settle within the one block and just go from 1 hour each to then 6 seconds and be done?
Yes and no. So there's a limit on how many sub swaps happen per block. So in the current moment, what would actually happen is you have 1 hour in this direction, one in this direction, and they would both execute in 30 minutes, right? Because we just set a max of just 2 sub swaps per block. If we set that number to 5, then instead of being an hour, it would be 1/5 of an hour, right? If we set it to 10, it'd be 1/10. If we set it to 100, it'd be 1/100th. Eventually, you get to a point where it's one block, right?
Okay. So it's still the streaming is still happening as a streaming swap. It's still being broken up into tiny swaps.
Correct.
It's
still
just
a
how
streaming
many
swap.
of those tiny swaps can be crossed within a block.
Crossed together in a single, because in that scenario, you have just 2 swaps going back and forth over the course, of whatever time span.
Yeah.
And so it's just going kind of fighting back and forth, not fighting, but just pushing the pool one direction and the other direction, one direction and the other direction, repetitively back and forth, and just effectively doing what an order book would do. Order books usually settles this like as an instantaneous thing. We don't do that. We drop in little bits and do little bits of transferring, and there's a few reasons for that. But one is where we have an AMM, we have pools, we don't have limit orders in the traditional sense of what that means. But you can also get to a situation where you have 2 swaps. One's going Bitcoin to ETH, and one's going ETH to Doge, right? And so they're crossing each other, but not on both pools. They're only crossing in one of the 2 pools. So there are complicated scenarios where it would help kind of in one situation, but that wouldn't execute 1 hour in both directions. That wouldn't help. It would help partially, a little bit, but not entirely.
So, okay, I think I get it. So then help me understand. So if we did, going back to those 2 1-hour trades, the reason they still need to be broken up into small sub swaps is because if they say there's one giant swap within one block, that one giant swap in one block would have a lot of slippage. Both those trades would have a lot of slippage. They would still cross, but the slippage would be huge, and both people would still end up with way less than what they want.
I think it'd be the opposite. It would be, well, not the opposite, but it'd be one would have way more slippage, and the other, whoever goes second, would have probably a much better pool price. Do you know what I mean? Because the pool price has been pushed. That's like the price of Bitcoin has been pushed down and within the pools, and all of a sudden, if you're buying Bitcoin, well, you got to have like a nice little bit of a discount there, right? So like whoever goes, if you both have 2 large trades, and not streaming, the second guy is probably going to win out over the first guy.
Got it. Okay, got it.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, because this is the key difference. This is why with our limit orders and everything, it's not an order book. It's still clearing through the pools, and each trade still has its individual unique slippage with the pool. Whereas an order book, they do just cancel each other out. There is no slippage. Got it. So even though on rapid swaps, when we have multiple trades within a block, it's not like they're all occurring at the same time. They're still being ordered inside the block.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And So when we go through the swap queue in the block, it's like, all right, what's all the swaps we want to execute? We grab it all, both market orders and limit orders. We grab them from our little database and we sort them in a certain kind of sorting order, and then we just execute one at a time and just go through the whole list, you know. And some are execute successfully, and some don't execute successfully, depending upon the trade limit, maybe, or maybe a pool was disabled at that particular moment and not trading or whatever. Who knows?
Got
And
it.
so then just goes through the whole list in that particular order. And then the rapid swap is we go through that. We just do it again. We go start from the top, grab all lists of all the different trades that could be executed, and then try to execute as many of them as we can. And right now we just do that twice. But tomorrow we could do 3 times, right? Or 4 times or 5 times, or arbitrarily 1,000 times. I mean, I actually spoke with Ryan over there. I asked him to figure out, like, what is the distribution of swaps and the number of subswaps of a swap, right? Like, how often are like swaps that are like 5 subswaps? How many swaps are like 30 plus, right? Like, how many of our volume is broken into how many subswaps? And that's a kind of a complicated question in some ways, because we have different pools of different sizes. So it matters how many subswaps you get matters on which pools you're swapping through. So the Bitcoin pool is like the deepest of the pools, versus the Solana pool is probably one of our most shallowest pools. And so both going $1,000 into each pool, you would get a very different amount of subswaps, right? Because the size is different relative to the size of the same, but the pools of depths are shallower or deeper, depending on which way we look at it. And so we found that, or he found rather, that like the vast majority of our trades are like 10 swaps or less. That's what it looks like. It's hard. Based on the chart he sent me, it's kind of hard to tell you like an exact percentage, but the vast majority, it appears to me of like maybe 70%, 75% of our trades have 10 swaps or less, subswaps or less. And so theoretically, what that would mean is if we set our max, rapid swaps number from 2, where it is now, to 10, theoretically, all of those trades would be executed. If the arbs were arbing and all the liquidity was perfect, then all 80%, 70% of our trades would be single swap trades, single block trades rather, not single swap. Right.
Really cool. Well, this actually leads into the next question I had.
Sure.
Put on the screen. Is there a limit for the number of swaps per block for rapid swaps?
A theoretical limit. Well, the number is just a number we can put as arbitrarily high as we want to. The thing to consider is how many iterations does it take before you start really influencing the block times, and our block time starts slipping from 6 seconds to 7 seconds to 9 seconds to 30 seconds. If you had two $30 million trades, right, and they're going opposite directions, like, how many swaps could you do before the block time starts slipping? That's really the limiting factor more than anything else. So I think the intention is to increase this number from 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 to 30 to whatever it is, and just kind of walk it up, and just keep our eyes on the block times to make sure they're not slipping too much. I presume they would almost never do it, because we would almost never see, or very rarely see, a situation where we're doing so many swaps in a single block that we actually cause the time block time to slip. We don't see $30 million trades happening every 5 minutes on THORChain's network. So
Yet.
yet, but we can just keep our eyes on that kind of stuff. And I think the other part too is, which I've been wanting to do, is there's a very famous developer that if you're not a developer, you probably never heard his name. His name is Andrew Karpathy. I think he's most well known because he helped build the AI software in Tesla self-driving cars, right? I think he's one of the core people to that. Anyways, he built a really interesting auto research tool, and what that effectively does is allows you to have a kind of self-reinforcing or self-learning, self-improving AI process. And so what been wanting to do, I haven't had the time to do quite yet, is build some really good benchmarking tools on the swap logic to benchmark how fast, each individual function or each individual component of the whole swap process, and then be able to benchmark each individual part, and then have this auto research tool to start like making code changes, like whatever code changes it feels like making. I don't know, it doesn't even matter what they are, and just start making sure that the unit tests pass and that the benchmark is improved, and just spend like a weekend just running continuously for days looking for ways of improving the swap logic to be much more performant than what it is now, so that we could increase the rapid swaps number from, let's say 30 is the number now, and 30 is as long as we're going to go, because we don't want the block times to slip too much. Making this code to be highly performant, more performant than it is now, was one way to improve the efficiency of that.
What about, so maybe you're tired of me asking you this all the time, the 2-second block times that,
Yeah,
wouldn't this
I
be
was
another reason to push that through, to implement that?
Yeah, I just had a conversation with Alux from Maya about this earlier this week, actually, and I've been hesitant about it because it just feels a little bit of a scary change from my perspective, like that it might break the network in one way that I would not be able to predict, and then we have some sort of weird behavior, and like I just makes me a little bit nervous, which is why I've like been a little bit hesitant to do so, and it was hard for me to think about the risk versus the reward, right? And I think that what Alex and I kind of agreed to, kind of a handshake agreement, is that Maya protocol will take the code change that we made to go to 2 seconds, and Maya protocol will do it first, because they're a smaller chain with smaller volumes and smaller risks than we do, and they'll be kind of like the canary canary chain in a sense, and do the upgrade themselves. And then if there are any issues, we can figure out that they are, and then we can have a lot more confidence that the risk is much lower for our THORChain because it's already been validated on the Maya chain. And then we can go to 2-second block times on THORChain's infra.
It's like my protocol to me has always been THORChain's major stage net, like, and that's why I'm so glad, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's why that's why I'm kind of like opposed to merging them. Is, it's so useful having this network on the side that you can post something there. Because if you're scared, Chad, I'm scared. You know what I mean?
I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like maybe I'm just being overly, I don't know.
No, I don't think
The
Trust your
block
gut.
time,
Trust
the
your
block
gut.
time touches a lot of things, right? And like all over the place in the code base, and it's hard to go through all of them and find them all, and you know, it's hard to have the confidence to build the confidence required, because it's not something you can do on StageNet and validate it or not. Like there's a good chance StageNet wouldn't find whatever the bug might be until you find it on mainnet. So I've always been hesitant about it, but if Maya's was open to doing it first and testing out that code change that we put together months ago, then let them do it first. Let them test it for us and validate it, make sure the risk is, very, very little, and then we can go to 2-second block times. And that would be great, I think, just because it just gives ARBs more opportunity, because it's just more price changes within those 6 seconds.
And
Yes, absolutely.
the benefit for them taking on that risk is for that, while they have the 2-second block times, they should beat us on quotes, on times anyway, right? So,
Maybe.
in the aggregators, they'll probably get some volume out of it, and that'll be the benefit to them, and then that'll light the fire under your butt, to implement it on THORChain. Um, so, well, good. That's really awesome on Alex and the Maya community's
Yeah.
part to be willing to do that.
To be fair, it doesn't remove the risk. Like, I don't know how many validators Maya has, but I'm pretty sure it's significantly less than we
Yes, it
have.
is.
So, we have 100 validators and they have like 30 or whatever the number is over there. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's relatively smaller than us. So we have more validators. So testing it with more validators is different than testing in their environment.
Yeah. Is that so? That's the major. Is it the number of validators is going to? How do I ask this? Why does it matter if there's 30 nodes versus 100? Like, it's either it works or it doesn't, isn't it? Or just the more node, more probability it won't work?
So the nodes have to communicate. They go through rounds of communication in order to agree on, like usually you always have a block proposer, which is somewhat randomly selected, semi-random selected, and that block proposer proposes a block with all the different transactions they choose to include in that particular block, and the other ones have to receive that and validate it, and it all has to be done within a 2-second time frame. And it's that validator can't do that in that time span. Like if you try to put too much in the block, for example, you won't be able to fit it all, so to speak, in that 2-second time frame. So there are considerations of having a higher quantity of validators for sure.
I got a question. So maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought 2-second block times and DKLS and Monovault were kind of part of the package deal, or is it only 2-second block times and like Monovault, DKLS, that's something separate?
That's something separate because of the DKLS and Monovault idea is about threshold signing, and this we're talking about 2 seconds is about block signing, and that's those two separate things. In a matter of speaking, I don't know if we can go to Monovault or not. I don't think anybody really knows. We might be able to. We have to. What we have to do is switch to DKLS, which will probably happen this year. I'm hoping. We already got Soda Labs kind of poking at that, and we'll take a gander. And it is much more efficient than GG20 for sure. We'll be able to go from what we have now, 30. Is it 30 or no 20? 20 validators per vault, up to 20 validators per vault. We can go to something higher, 25, 30, whatever. And I think the idea is that once we got DKLS, we'll go from 20 to let's just call it 25, for example. And then we'll just keep our eyes on the threshold signing times and see how fast or slow they are. They should be increasing in time exponentially with every new validator you add, because of because of the mathematics of how it has to do I think it's 3 rounds of communication in that particular instance for DKLS 23. 3? I think it's 3. Maybe it's 4. But with every new signer you add, it exponentially increases the time. So we'll have to just kind of start creeping it up and then keep your eyes on the time and then creep it back down if we need to or whatever. But I'm also hoping that batch signing will change that in some ways, meaning that you could sign a bunch of transactions in a single signature versus doing 20 signatures. You could do it all in one signature theoretically and be able to be a lot slower in your TSS sign time or your threshold signing time, but still be able to output, hundreds of transactions per minute or something like this.
I'm starting to go with Kenton's idea that ossification is never going to happen. THORChain is always just going to seek to improve and streamline and increase our capabilities. So this is just the process. So buckle up, folks. Go ahead, Kenton. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I get that because even this past week, I was brainstorming with a couple other people, and we had some new ideas for THORChain to improve its.
There you go.
So there could be some other new kind of alpha that we can be dropping too about some potential new features we started to consider.
Only dinosaurs ossify and they're fucking dead. So we're never ossifying. You know what I mean?
I mean, I certainly don't want to just be adding features just to add features, right? That's definitely not. That's gonna be a waste of time and energy. And I do want to simplify the code because it's already fairly complex as is. But at the same time, right? If there's something that comes up, some feature or some whatever it is, rapid swaps, whatever, and it provides significant value to the protocol, like rapid swaps does, and I think it's showing itself to do so, then it's worth the time and energy to put that together and improve the efficiency of the protocol, to be more competitive in the market and all these kind of things. But I don't want to just keep on adding every random idea we've ever thought of. Sometimes people can propose an idea. Oh, I think this would be a really good idea, whatever this is. And it's well, nobody's really asking for that. If we were to deliver it, even limit swaps hasn't had as much adoption as I would have liked to have seen. It doesn't mean you're not going to get it tomorrow or as you was kind of allow it or whatever, but it hasn't been as adopted as I thought it was going to be. but like, you know, I don't want to get in situations like that where we just start adding features because it sounds cool, but then in reality, does people want to use this feature or not? Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. I got one more, and I think you were saying content, but I got one more question. Take it back to rapid swaps. So right now, you know, we're at the minimum value of 2, which means there's 2 sub swaps in intra block, right? That's the most minimum. So in a perfect world, that's about 50% increase in, or yeah, 50%. You know, the halving of the time it takes to execute a swap. So I'm trying to say, are you in a position where you want to take it to 3 or 4, or do you want to see more activity on rapid swaps? What's your thinking along those lines, Chad?
That's a good question. This is something I struggle a little bit with because functionally the feature is working swimmingly. We haven't seen any issues or bugs other than that one quoting issue we talked about earlier in the conversation. So it's working exactly as is planned. It's working. When it works well. And the problem is, I think that we don't have enough arbing with the rapid swaps, just arbing the start of the block, but not in the middle of the block, so to speak. So the only thing that really stops me from increasing it now to 3 or 4 or 5 is a concern around. I don't want to tick off our aggregator friends like SwapKit, for example, because the quoting mechanism assumes that this rapid swap is going to be utilized to the how it's configured to be utilized, which is like in this current moment too. So when you get a quote, it's supposed to tell you like how much time it's going to take, which it's giving you, you know, half the time that it would have taken if the interval was set to 1 with non-rapid swaps. And I don't want to get to a place where we set it to some number like 5 and we're quoting 1/5 the swap time, but in reality, because arbs aren't arbing or whatever, and rapid swaps isn't being used as much, then you know, SwapKit or whomever gets a little bit pissy because our quotes aren't really matching our performance, right? That's the main reason. That's like probably the only reason why I don't just flip it up higher right now, right? Or get the notes to do right now.
Well, wouldn't the time still work out the same, but just the price execution would be worse? Because you'd be
No, because it's designed to that when there is no counterparty to your rapid swap, it kind of becomes a non-rapid swap.
a
Do you know
regular
what I mean?
swap. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know,
For that reason. So
for
doesn't
that reason, like I'd rather become a slower swap than all of a sudden get like a worse execution.
yes.
Like that would be even worse in my mind to
Yes.
have a worse execution, which is why it kind of prioritizes like, oh, don't get a worse execution, just give it a worse time. If there's not liquidity, if there's not an arb thing or something going in the reverse direction, just, you know, fall back to a regular old streaming swap, one sub swap per block, and then retry again next block. And maybe there's an arbor in the next block, right?
Great. That's a great feature, Chad.
Yeah.
Great thinking about that. Yeah.
It wasn't like that initially. I actually changed that behavior like a few months after rapid swaps, or a few months after the first implementation was done, because I didn't realize that I could do it that way. And then I figured out a very simple answer, very elegantly, stupidly. I should have thought of it earlier, to be honest with you. But it was a very simple, clean way of doing it, of ensuring you don't get a worse execution.
Yeah. Nice.
Love it. Brilliant.
Um,
Awesome.
I wanted to go back to DKLS, and just maybe the audience is a bit unsure, and maybe I'm unsure. But so THORChain uses TSS, threshold scheme signature, and DKLS is like it's still TSS. It's just like another version of TSS.
Yeah, I would say another version of MPC.
Of MPC. Okay.
Yeah, multi-party communication, multi-party cryptography, or I forget what the C stands for.
Isn't MPC and TSS technically they're different, right? Like what's the difference between them?
Yeah, there's TSS generally refers to the feather gold feather something. I forget the scientist, the cryptographer's names. That usually refers to that implementation of GG18 or GG20. TSS is generally referred to that. This is the way that I think about it, at least. Maybe I get this wrong. Threshold signatures is maybe I'm confusing myself now. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've even thought about this.
It's okay. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but if you don't know, it's fine. Yeah.
I thought I knew it, then I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm actually now I'm like getting my own wires crossed.
Well, it's
But yeah,
do you want to keep guessing, or we can?
you can keep going.
So like is but Multisig, they are using TSS, and then they implemented DKLS signing in their wallet to play with it. And wasn't that part of them doing it? Is like, okay, we'll make sure it works in Multisig, and then we can apply it to THORChain. And so, am I right? Is that how it's kind of gone? And
Well,
everything's been okay there. Now we can apply it to THORChain.
not really, because we have different requirements. Multisig is, I'm signing with you, and you're signing. We're like the three of us are. So the three of us here have a Multisig wallet, and we're signing with each other or whatever, and we're all trusted. It's a trusted scenario, and we're signing with ourselves or with friends or whatever it is, and so you don't need to worry about identifying who fucked up. If somebody maliciously kills a signing process between the three of us, it doesn't really matter in a Multisig scenario because we're all friends anyway. So there's not really where I'm just signing with myself because I have one on my phone and one on my iPad and one on my laptop or whatever the thing is. And so there's no concern to that. For THORChain, what stopped us in the past from doing DKLS is that it doesn't have what we call identifiable aborts, which means that if somebody screws up the key sign or key gen process, some node becomes malicious and stops the process from proceeding. We want to know who it is. Oh, that was Kenton who did that. And now that we know that a Kenton did that, we can slash Kenton's, bond or slash Kenton's, rewards or something like this to incentivize Kenton to not screw up, not maliciously screw up our processes. You don't need that for Multisig, but you technically don't need it for THORChain either. It's definitely better that you do, right? So we know who screwed it up, and I think most people using DKLS today, whether it be Coinbase or Silence Labs or whatever, none of them really have situations where they really care about identifiable aborts, right? Because they all operate in a trusted system, right, within a corporation like Coinbase, for example, and they don't have to worry about malicious activity because everything's trustful. For us, we're trustless, and we have to assume that Kenton might be malicious in his behavior and be as defensive as we can. But even in the worst case scenario where we implement DKLS and we don't have identifiable aborts at that time, it's not a great attack vector to do that because Kenton's still a valid, active validator. He's got his rune locked up in the network. If he decided to be malicious and start screwing up key signs or whatever, then you're not really helping yourself out much, and you're not really doing that much damage because we only need 2/3 to do the key sign anyway. So if Kenton's being malicious, every once in a while Kenton might be in this key signing process, and every once in a while he's not in the key signing process. So eventually the signing would still happen. It'd be more destructive on the key gen process because key gen process requires everybody to be a part of that process, But then, we run a situation where we have a difficulty churning because Kenton keeps on trying to screw it up for some reason, which for him is just like, what's the point? Because he can't churn out. Like his capital as a rune holder is locked up until he gets out of the system. So what's the plan here? Right? Like, what's the purpose? We won't be able to get your capital back if you can't churn out, So it's a little bit like if we can get it, it'd be a lot better if we don't get it. But if we don't have it, it wouldn't be the end of the world, if that makes sense.
And from what I understand, if we go DKLS, there's no going back, right? It's not something that you can just rewind the clock. You can't, if I remember correctly, you just simply, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. I'll kick it to you.
You can go back. You could revert if you want to revert, because you're making a code change to go to DKLS, and then you can make a code change to go back to where it was before. You just have to do it, between churns, so to speak, right?
Oh, got you. I understand. Got you.
Like,
okay.
Like when we go from GG20 to DKLS one day, that's going to be part of the churn. We're going to do a churn, but instead of generating GG20 key signatures or keys, we'll be generating DKLS in that particular churn, and the whole network just switches in a single block, so to speak, between the old system to the new system. And we could always just churn again back to the old system if you really thought there was a strong need to do so.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. Learn something new every day talking to you guys. We do have a question from the audience: is what is going to help THORChain get better quotes than our competition? I guess I can kick that to you, Chad.
Yeah. So like, I actually tweeted about this last week. With rapid swaps, it was kind of like the last key in the puzzle, so to speak, where now all of the major components of what makes our quotes is now just a configuration, and it's something that nodes can configure, and that includes how many fees we charge per swap, per pool swap, which right now is set to 10. We could configure that to be 1 if we wanted to. We could configure that to be 100 if we wanted to. Like, it's an arbitrary number that we can just that nodes can just vote and push in one direction or the other. There's the swap time of like how fast a swap takes, which rapid swaps is kind of like going to make that as fast as we want to, because that number can be as arbitrarily as large as we want to. It's limited by arbitrage bots rather than the protocol itself. There's also things like the delayed outbound that can be configured to be longer or shorter, right? There's even things like the TSS signing time, how fast it is to sign something. That can be configured to be longer or shorter just by increasing or decreasing the number of Asgards, nodes, validators, and an Asgard, right? You can make that really quick or really slow. And so like all of those things, it's just a configuration at this point. It's not even like a technical challenge or an economic problem, blah, blah, blah. We can do it, and we can do it now with the pool's depths that we have today, right? And the only thing that's really stopping us right now is just like a community sentiment of like, how much do we want to have delayed outbound? Is it 0? Is it really long? How much do we want to charge in fees? Is it 10 bips? Is it 100 bips? Is it 1 bip, right? Like, it could be arbitrarily like, anything at this point. Which, by the way, I think people will find this tangentially related, but so we were looking at just live in the show, I think like 2 weeks ago, actually. We were looking at the trade volume of Near, and we'd found that almost 80% of the trade volume was just stable coins, right? And their Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, and blah, 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 DAI, or whatever else, is just like 20% of their actual trading volume. And I was really kind of surprised because I had never really looked that closely at it. And like we have like 2 to 3x the Bitcoin volume or the Ethereum volume than Near does. Even though they have overall a lot more volume than we have, 80% of that is just swaps. And if 80% of that is stables rather, then that would insinuate that 60% of their volumes is just stable to stable volume, right? That would insinuate that, right?
Right.
And so I spoke with Ryan to help me figure out what percentage of our volume is stable.
Sorry, Chad, we say Ryan, you mean Rake?
Rake, sorry. I keep on saying Ryan, but Rake. Sorry. Yeah. So thank you for correcting me. So when I spoke to Rake, I asked him what was our swap to swap, stable to stable volume in our network on THORChain. He's like, obviously it changes from day to day, but it's around 10%, versus theirs, which seems like it's close to 60%, a very significant difference. So as a fun little experiment, I put in very small code change. I just threw in the ability to set the fee for stables to stables separately from the fee for like all the trades and swaps. So I kind of want to just test, putting our stable to stable fee to like 1 bip or 2 bips, because at most we would lose 10% of our volume. If we lost all of the volume from making our stuff cheaper, we would lose 10% of our system income, right? Theoretically, approximately. Obviously, we're not going to get 0. We're going to get some number. But I'm very curious just to see, as an experiment, just to flip it on for like a few days or a week, whatever, to see like if we put our stable to stable at like 1 bip or 2 bips, something very small, how much volume do we suck out of, Near or other competitors, and how much does that help our fees, right? Do we get more? Do we get a net positive on fees even when we go down to like 1 or 2 bips specifically on stables to stables? Maybe, because it's only 10% of our fees anyway, because we're not very competitive relative to, Near and other people in terms of like their pricing. So if we become competitive there, then what happens? And so I'm being very yes. With a Coke just said Near had 13 million in volume in stable in total volume, and 95 million in stables alone.
Wow.
Which is a lot, right?
84%.
Yeah, it's 84% in this instance. So I'm just curious, because I think it'd be just, I don't know, call me a little bit crazy here. Just if we set the stables to stables, we have very little to lose. 10% most, just for the experiment, and then we'll see how much up volume tick we get, if any. I don't know what's going to happen. Please don't. I'm not guaranteeing anything to the community or of course, but we'll try it out and see what happens, and maybe we'll actually, in that instance, like, for example, like when we did our fee trials with Cow a few months ago, if you remember that, we did the whole thing, right? The whole thing, we went from 20 bips to 10 bips to 9 bips to 2 bips or whatever. And because we're not going to get that much volume out of Near or Chainflip for Bitcoin and Ethereum, because we're already dominating them in that particular, those particular pools, right? Particular assets. So there's not a lot to be taken from them when you undercut yourself, so that you're not going to increase the volume that much, but you are going to decrease the amount of fees you're collecting, because you're going from 20 bips down to 10 bips to 5 bips to 1 or whatever. So there's not enough volume to make it worth your while, in a sense. But with stables, it's a little bit different, because they have $100 million in stables. On Near has $100 million in stables yesterday, or close to 100 million. So that's a lot of volume, and even at a 2 bip scenario, that would be a very significant increase in fees for us.
And it's starting to grind me a bit. People compare ourselves to Chainflip and Near. Like we really got to zoom out here. So like when you're asking about quotes on Chainflip and Near, that's on the aggregator side. Okay, fine. We may be missing out on some trades there, but look at STO, our own swap interface. We are winning volume there relative to Near and Chainflip. And if you actually look at Near's volume, it stopped. It was going like this, really nice straight up, trending up quite well, and it stopped and started going down when STO went live, and like last October, November. And if you look at all of the volume, all the front end volume on THORChain over the last 4 months, half of it is our own front end, STO.
Mm-hmm.
This is in arguably the worst bear market we've had in crypto. Bear market we're 4 years into it, basically. And our own front end, our own interface is already doing half of the front end volume. This is compared to Trust Wallet, Ledger, all these other integrations we've had that have existed for almost 4 years now. And within 4 months, our own interface, that is still arguably in beta, is equaling their volume.
Mm-hmm.
And before marketing it.
We haven't really been marketing it or pushing it, right? And so yeah, and our real competition, guys, is Coinbase and Binance. If Chainflip and Near did not exist, or we were able to literally capture 100% of their volume, it would actually make a marginal difference on THORChain, on our revenue, on the room price. It wouldn't matter much. If we captured 100% of the volume from Coinbase and Binance, that would matter a lot. That would make a difference. So our real competition, and we need to get quotes from, and we need to beat on quotes on price and execution, is Coinbase and Binance. That's our growth, is the sexes, is getting people off the sexes onto THORChain. That's our real market. For us, don't get me, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't be competitive and keep an eye on Chainflip and Near.
We understand.
Right? But we're basically dogs fighting for scraps under the table, all three of us, right? Whereas it's like these tiny little crumbs under the table And on the table where all the centralized exchange volume is 1,000 times bigger piece of meat. That's the meat we need to be jumping out and going for, right? Not fighting over the scrap underneath the table. So, yeah, just for the person asking that question, anybody else thinking about it, I just ask people to zoom out a bit. What's THORChain's real competition, and where are the volumes coming from? So yeah, it's not. I don't think oh, if they beat us on a quote that it's the end of the world and THORChain's going to fail and it's not getting any volume. No, it's not like that at all. We have lots of ways to win, and that we are winning. So it's just a matter of reframing your perspective.
Well, I agree. I'm wondering if you guys have anything you want to add to that. I do have a couple topics people want me to get to, but I totally agree with what you're saying, Kenton.
Yeah, no, that's good. We can go to the next topic.
Okay, so this is I really glad this happened, Chad. I think this is great. So there was Boone's ADR 24, right, the POL ad, but a transition's been made, and I think this is just simply awesome as it just gives more power to the nodes and just makes it there. ADR 24 kind of is not relevant anymore, Chad, because we're basically adding a Mimir that allows nodes to decide through consensus, what a PO ad should be. So maybe I'll kick it to you from there, Chad, if you want to talk about that a little bit. But I really got me really excited.
Yeah, so let me give a little bit more context. We've always had the incentive pendulum was used to be able to balance revenue for nodes versus LPs, right? Historically, that's always been the case. And in a bear market, it gets a little more challenging because Rune's prices a lot less than how Bitcoin and Ethereum move as a higher market cap assets. So right now, the pendulum is swinging all the way to the left, meaning all the validators get all the income and LPs get, it's not zero, but it's like 0.1% or something very, very tiny. I don't know the actual numbers, but it's very, very small. And so that pendulum is no longer really kind of working anymore, in part because of the app layer, in part because of, of supporting various other kind of DeFi tools and whatever, and not just the direction we decided to go as a community. So now we need to figure out a way to balance like how we want to send yield to LPs versus nodes, in effect. And this is like kind of a little bit not exactly that, because we're not talking about like LPs anymore. We're just talking about taking some amount of the yield of the income and putting it back into the pools, right, through the POL, through the Protocol Owned Liquidity. So the idea is that I myself or somebody else will put together the PR, probably not for 317, which is going to be cut probably in a few days, but probably as part of maybe 317, maybe I can squeak it in 317 possibly, but maybe 318 if not 317. And where nodes can just vote on what percentage of system income do you want to go to the POL to help build the pools and make the pools deeper and more liquid and this kind of thing. And every node will say something, whatever they want, 10, 20, 5, 2, 0, whatever it is. And I think you'll naturally, wherever it gets the most votes is the winning thing. Right. And so I think that's naturally going to just trigger nodes to just consolidate into a single number eventually, because having the opinion, if there's like, say I wanted 10 and Kenton wanted, wanted 5 and you wanted 1, Denny, or you wanted 0, Denny. We can, if Kenton and Denny vote in the same way, my vote, it doesn't even matter at this point, because it doesn't matter what I do. A majority, a simple majority, vote in a single direction. But if you can think of it, if there's more of us, like 6 of us or 7 of us, or a larger scale, it doesn't make sense for us to split our vote amongst 3, right? So you have to figure out out of the 2 that are possible, which of the 2 that do you want to go to. It's a little bit similar to like having like a third candidate in politics, right? You have the Republicans and you have Democrats, and then you get the independent, like your Ross Perot. I know nobody here is probably old enough to remember Ross Perot, but your Ross Perot or whoever,
Yeah.
your Bernie Sanders was going to be a independent kind of, but he ran on the Democratic ticket. But like having a third candidate in a presidential election means that you're going to split off, some percentage to that third candidate. And does that hurt the Republicans more or the Democrats more? It depends upon who the candidate is and, all these things. So it's conceptually a little bit similar to that. And so eventually nodes will vote, they'll consolidate it down to like probably 2 or 3, positions, and then whatever has the most votes wins.
So, okay, at first I thought you were going to say it'd go like we would just average out all the node votes to come up with the number. But are you saying, well, each node is going to signal what number they want, and
Yes.
then we'll just do an iterative process to kind of come up with, okay, we boiled it down to these 2 values. Now everybody vote again. We're going to keep revoting.
No, it's not even revoting. It's like say we launch this feature in the code base, and then 5 nodes vote in whatever directions, and whatever got the most votes in that 5 is the new number. And then 6th, 7th, and 8th node comes in, and now it's no longer that, it's now a higher number or now a lower number. And so just look at the network and see how many votes there have been, which of the numbers have had the highest quantity. It doesn't matter if that number is 6 or 7% or not, or less than that, doesn't matter. It's just whoever gets the most. So if you're a node and you just don't vote, then you're emitting your vote. Basically, you're not participating, and you're just like, I'm just going to go with the crowd, whatever the crowd decides, right? Like, I'm not going to vote myself. But then only 30 nodes vote, and out of those 30 nodes, 12 of them voted for 10%, and 10 of them voted for 0%, and and then the 12 basically win.
Why well, why not keep this like a normal Monero? Why to have 67% to pass the number?
Well, because like usually when we vote something like this, it's to enable or disable a feature most commonly, right? I mean, it can be used for like something like we'll be charging in fees or whatever, and we could do it. We could set fees in this way. In fact, it already is. Like if nodes started to vote on what the fees they wanted to have, this would be the thing that I'm talking about right now, because the fees we charge for L1 swaps, whatever, is an operational Monero, meaning that whatever a simple majority above a majority above 4 nodes, I think it requires at least 4 votes to be valid. But anything above that number or larger, like that's what it is. And for right now, the nodes don't vote on that number, and they just kind of allow what historically was 9 realms to just kind of pick whatever the number is, and the nodes just kind of just go along with that. But the nodes don't have to go along with that. They could vote against the current number, which is 10, and set it to 15 or set it to 5. Like it could happen right now, and there's nothing to stop any of the nodes. That's why nodes always have the ability to override everything and anything. Like they have the last say on all things, in the protocol. So by doing it this way, it just makes it so that instead of me or somebody like me going to the community and saying, hey, let's all vote on, the POL, system income to the POL, here are your 3 options, 0, 5, and 20, or whatever. And then everybody ADR votes on those 3 numbers. Instead of doing that, everybody just votes whatever direction they want in terms of what they want for the POL to receive in system income, which 0 is a valid number, by the way, right? And everybody just votes, and that's what the number is, right?
So let's say we get like 30 or 40 nodes voting, and there's let's just say 30 nodes, and it's basically an even tie. There's 3 nodes want to do 1, 3 nodes want to do 2, 3 nodes want to do 4, so on. But there's 70 nodes that haven't voted, so it'll just stay at 0 because they haven't voted. Their non-vote is effectively 0. Don't change anything.
No, it wouldn't stay at 0. That scenario, it would be, in that scenario, I think it would be whoever reached the tie first would be the current winner. Even though there's a 3-way tie, whoever got to that number first, I believe. I'm trying to remember from a while ago, so maybe get this wrong.
Okay.
They just arrived at that number faster. But if one of the other 2 got 1 more vote from the 70 that didn't vote, then obviously that becomes the new number, whatever number that is, either 0 or 30 or 100 or whatever the hell the number is.
So not if you're abstaining from voting, you're actually not being counted. If you actually want a zero value, you have to vote zero.
Yes. If you want zero, you should vote zero.
Okay.
If you don't want to participate and you want to omit your vote, then go ahead and vote that. Or you can vote for zero and then later on vote for -1, which is basically a delete command, like go back to an omit stance.
An abstain. You're
Abstain stance.
withdrawing your vote.
Withdrawing your vote.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
gonna
Interesting.
sorry, I'm going to bump in real quick. I'm learning that X comments are not forwarding to our public chat, you guys. So if
They
you have
never
a
do.
question, okay,
It's only YouTube.
okay, YouTube. So guys, either come to Riverside itself or have the question on YouTube. I've been trying to find these questions. I'm sorry about that, but
Wasn't Coke? I thought Coke's keeping an eye on these other
yeah.
platforms. Come on, producer. What are you doing there behind the scenes?
Yeah,
The man in the chair.
Yeah.
Get back in your chair.
Koitsu did want a clarification on something. He says, under what circumstances would a user who asks for a rapid swap not get one? And I'm assuming that's just if there's no arb liquidity, it goes to streaming swap, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the more technically, and this is not too technical for the group, but the protocol now monitors the last direction of each pool, right? Did it go from Rune to Bitcoin or Bitcoin to Rune, right? Which direction did the last trade go? And in a rapid swap scenario, when you're in multiple iterations, it just says, I'm trying to go from Bitcoin to Rune. Was the last one from Rune to Bitcoin or Bitcoin to Rune? If it's in the same direction, then I'm not going to do anything, cancel my swap. And if it is, then I'm going to go ahead and do the trade. And that way it ensures that we don't see a swap happen in the same direction twice in a row. It's always going to require this trade and then that other way, then the other way, then the other way, like back and forth, back and forth. And by doing so, you ensure that like you should never get a situation where you get worse execution because of rapid swaps. In theory, that's my understanding of it at least. So so if nobody shows up to do the other side, then it just cancels the rapid swap. And say, oh, we're just done. We're already done. We don't need to go another iteration beyond this point.
Gotcha. And idle extra details by Koitsu here, but just real quick, guys, on the X comments thing, I don't even see the comments myself. Coke says they're so buggy, and that matches my experience as well. So friggin' X, you guys, what can you do? But Koitsu further asks, what came up was a user who did a Bitcoin Cash to Ethereum rapid swap, small amount, but the rapid swap didn't apply. Boone mentioned it might have something to do with swaps first block. So there we go. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably just because there wasn't nobody trading in the reverse direction, which hopefully should be an arbitrage spot in almost all scenarios. If the arbitrage spots are present and doing their thing to do, then there should never be. In theory, our bot should always be there, but in reality, it's not always the case.
Perfect. Awesome. We got that cleared up. So he mentioned Boone. So I'm going to mention because this is something that I've seen him submitting some. He's been working on the XMR integration, which is really cool. And these are Boone's words, not mine. He says I might have a little of the tism. So, but he's actually really excited and appreciative, Chad, that he's in there doing it, and it's been a blast watching him do that, and with Hugin as well. So, I know this is super early and things like that, and you haven't had a chance to revote, but I think it's really cool how ordinary community member has been empowered. And you've helped facilitate that. So just want to flex my appreciation for that. I love when I see ordinary people get more involved and become bigger parts. It just makes me so happy to see.
And I'll do a shout out to another community member. I won't say his name or handle, but I don't know. But he's bugging me about getting XMR on THORChain, and he's like, okay, I'm going to talk to the XMR community. I know some devs there and blah, 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 get stuff going. So I'm like, oh, great. So I told him to get in touch with Boone and the PR that's going. And so you're right, Denny, to see people get self-actualized and, start getting involved. It's great to see, great to hear. So hopefully this guy can, I don't know, drum up some interest on the Monero side. We'll find out.
Yeah, and like a big question. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chad. A big question is like, what is the roadmap of THORChain? It's like, well, anybody can step up and add to this. This is one big experiment in my mind. That's how I feel about it, and I love this protocol so much. I'm so attached to it. It's become such a big part of my life. But anyone can literally help guide us. You know what I mean, and push something forward. But enough of that. I'll send it to you, Chad.
Yeah, we could definitely have a larger conversation about what the roadmap is, and I got some new things on that roadmap in some ways. It was those things I'm interested in looking at. But I just want to mention that like Boone's doing, Boone took it upon himself to do this XMR chain client. I didn't ask him to do it. He's been poking me the last couple months about wanting to be more involved from a developer perspective because he's just getting really into like the AI tools. To my knowledge, I don't think Boone is like a classically trained, so to speak, developer by any stretch, but he's still a very engaged, and intelligent person who is wrapping his brain around these newfangled tools we have. And I didn't work on the XRP thing for a handful of reasons, but one of the reasons is like wasn't aware that there was a Frost implementation that we could have in theory used to secure those assets, but Boone did, and it was built by I think Luke Parker's his name over on the Sarai project, like mid last year, like in August of last year in 2025. Didn't even know that was there personally, but it's a Rust implementation, which is probably fine, and so he's just doing that work, and like it's actually coming along quite well. And I keep on throwing things at him, like how this is the next step you got to do to get your code change ready, and so I'm kind of like guiding him around, guiding him along, as some sort of like third base coach kind of thing, I guess you could call it, or whatever.
Come on.
Come on.
Yeah.
But it's now his code change at this point is ready for humans. Myself and Starsquid will be probably looking at that code change this week or next week, and start giving some feedback and telling him to do this or don't do this or whatever. And I'm sure there's a bunch of, if he doesn't mind being a little bit thrashed by myself and Starsquid, because I'm sure there's a bunch of things in there that's, it's AI generated code, and obviously we have to be very, just because we have to be sure about even if it's AI generated code that it works and it's secure and all these things, and it adheres to our our standards and quality standards we have to have. So myself and Starsquid will be doing that starting probably this week or next week to help and keep on telling them, you got to fix this, fix that, this is not right, blah 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 blah. And then once that's the case, we get it merged into the develop branch, and then we launch it on ChainNet and start doing some testing, like real world, physically, ChainNet, StageNet kind of environment, and see that it actually functions, and we can observe transactions, and we can sign transactions, and we can do all the things we need to do. But there's a lot of complexity in that. We have to get that whole sidecar with the Frost thing going, and we got to plug that into the keygen process. When we do a keygen for TSS, we have to also do a keygen for the new Frost, other system for Frost, right? And then you also have to do memoless outbounds, because I think the maximum memo for XMR is like 16 bytes, if I remember correctly. So you can't do outbound memos with that because it's just way too small. And so like there's a bunch of things that need to happen in order to get us to a place where we can support XMR. But there's more reason to be bullish now on XMR being added to THORChain than any other time in history, for sure. At this point, because of Boone and the work that he's doing, we should all be appreciative to Boone. There's a good chance that Monero will be added to THORChain in the next few months.
Wow.
And that's pretty awesome, because I wasn't thinking it was going to happen in the next few months. I was thinking maybe the end of 2026, maybe 2027, but he's really kind of sped up that timeline just because of the work he's been putting in.
Wow.
Yep. I've been watching. Go ahead, Kenton.
I just wanted to say I just marked this spot on the space that Coke can clip that and put it on social media. That's huge.
Yeah, well, he did. I've been watching Boone fire away, and I've been chatting him DM and stuff, and he's really committed, and I think he'll be fine with a thrashing. He's a guy who believes in ruthless meritocracy, so he wants to. And guys, be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. I was on a space before this live stream just trying to, improve the, our mind share a little bit, get new speakers, try to get just anything you do. I swear to God, it means so much for the protocol. So, yeah, everyone's really happy. Yay, Boone. Yeah, good, go
he's
Boone.
smart enough to know, I think, that it's not personal attack if you're
Yeah,
correcting
of
him
course.
on stuff.
Yeah.
But this is like, I can't stress this enough, guys. Like, I love what Boone's doing, and I really, and I hope you see what I'm doing, what Boone's doing. Like, we're community members who stepped up and we're doing stuff. We see something needs to be done, or we want it done, and we're getting involved and we're doing it. And like, I can't stress enough how important this is. This is how we win. This is how THORChain wins. And like ideas are worthless, you guys. Making an idea reality is the value. And I can't tell you how many people have come to me with all these ideas over the last few months about marketing and this and that. And they're great ideas. But I'm one person. It's impossible for me to get all of those things done, right? I need help. So if you have ideas about THORChain, oh, what are you guys doing? You should be doing this, should be doing that. Replace you with I. Replace we with I. And if you can't say that sentence out loud with the word I in it, then don't say it at all. And if you can say it, great. We need your help. Like, get in the arena. You can do things like Chad just mentioned, but I'm pretty sure Boone is not a dev or a classically trained one, and he could single-handedly be the guy that brings Monero to THORChain. How do you go from not being trained as a developer to adding the hardest chain ever on THORChain? Like, if he can do this and pull this off, no one else in the community can say, well, I can't do this. I've never done it before. I have no experience. Like, baloney. You can do it. Just change your mindset and get in the arena and start doing stuff. Cause like, man, I hope you're right, Chad. He pulls this off. That'd be so cool for him.
At this moment, it looks positive, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I don't want to guarantee anything or tell the
Yeah.
community that it's definitely happening, blah, 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 whatever. But from everything I've seen, and he says he got the simulation test to work, and that's the most important thing. You get the simulation test, which actually does spin up a full chain locally with daemons and the whole thing to test a Bitcoin transaction or a Monero transaction. And I told him, make sure it does, an inbound swap, like from Monero to Bitcoin or whatever, or from Bitcoin to Monero in both directions, and make sure like you can do LP add and, other kind of basic functionality on the simulation test. And he said he got it work. So, and if he says it got it work, I believe him that he's telling the truth, and I'll be actually looking at the code and with a critical eye to tell him to fix or correct whatever things in the coming weeks. But if we can get this thing merged in the next few weeks, it might be even the next chain we add, possibly, to the network after Zcash.
I can only get so erect, boys. Got to calm down, okay? I'm struggling over here. Okay?
Do you have one of those raising desks, or does your desk raise from something else?
I thought I heard a thump or something like that from your mic.
My blood pressure is dropping, but it's high in certain places right now. You see what I'm saying? No, that's really cool. That's very cool.
You weren't taking ibuprofen before. You were taking Viagra, weren't you?
That's how you see. Everyone's like, "Where's my energy come from?" Well, there you go. Aphrodisiacs, buddy. That's where it is, and cocaine, and some bath salts occasionally. You know what I mean? I got to mellow out.
Too many oysters.
Well, I want to take a pitch. Yeah, I want to make a quick pitch right now, because I think one of the most important things, guys, when it comes to getting involved is we actually got to meet each other. So you didn't say this, Kenton, so I'm going to pitch it right now. We're having a meetup in Las Vegas, you guys, April 27th. Please, if you can come, I'm begging you to come. I'm telling you, you really, like, your involvement in the protocol when you make that human connection is so powerful. Boone's going as well. Chad's going. And look at this person. They're bringing 7 people. 7.
Bringing his wife and kids or something?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
that's Tio, his uncle.
How many yeses do we have? I can't read that.
We have 18. 18. Here, I'll 18. Zoom in for the.
So it must not be counting all the.
So we have maybes as well
that people are bringing.
Well, most people put 1, and I put 1 too, because I'm not sure. I have someone I'm gonna try to bring. I think she can make it, but I don't want to exaggerate.
I know. But look at this
But maybe I
screenshot right
should.
here. That's 10, 12, 13, 14. That's 15 people right there. So the yeses must not be counting the guests. So I'm going to have to go tally them all up separate.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to be there too, by people. So if anybody wants to come hang out with me and ask me any random question you want, I'll be there.
Oh, Scott's going to be there too. Check this out, you guys. So this is really,
Scott?
really cool.
Scott's a local. He's going to help me find the venue. So,
nice.
which thank you, Scott. We appreciate your help. So we'll have to get on that. I'm guessing maybe even this week. And we'll just add a buffer on to the number of people we got and just kind of come up with a number. So RSVP quick, you guys, because I might have to cap it here, and we don't have to turn you away at the door.
No cap.
We'll try,
No cap.
I'll try and make it so
No cap. Are you capping me? Are you
No
capping?
cap.
No cap.
We'll try and make it so that we can accommodate as many people as we want realistically.
Everyone can come in Las Vegas. Every single person can come. Kenton will figure it out. Is that right, Kenton?
That's right. Yeah. Even all the
everybody comes in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Let me.
We'll just stand in the middle of the strip. Wrong. Fuck it.
We gotta get
prostitution's legal there.
What was Tony guy? Is he gonna bring 7 hookers? I wonder.
That's what we gotta do to get everybody to go out. It's like there's gonna be hookers there, guys. Come on down.
Absolutely.
You know what? Forget
STDs
crypto.
are free.
Forget the crypto KOLs. We should just start paying strippers to tell their guys.
See, this is the first principle thinking that I love. We just strippers, and that's all you need. Strippers and blow, and everything's gonna flow. You see what I'm saying? There you go. It's rhyming here.
We'll get. You know what we should do is get those guys in Vegas down the sidewalk, and they got the cards, handing out all the cards. We'll get some THORChain QR codes going out there.
Yeah. Get them to get some bunch of randos showing up who have no idea what THORChain is or what a blockchain is, and like,
they're just there.
I'm here for the hookers.
Oh man, awesome. Okay, well, so guys, please show up. We're gonna have fun. I mean, we're having fun. It's just 3 of us, and we're not even in person. Imagine when we get together and we have a few drinks. This is gonna get wild. It's gonna get wild. I'm telling you guys, it's gonna be so much fun.
To be clear, there's not going to be any hookers there, at least not that myself or Danny or Kenton are going to be bringing. So,
no, yeah.
To be very clear about that, allegedly,
not my jam. You guys do you. You want to bring one as a date? That's on someone else. I actually the company I used to work for, I started there in November, and then they had their Christmas party a few weeks after I started, and I almost got a hooker to bring with me as a date, just to kind of fuck with everybody. And I didn't. But I did show my boss's wife the color of my underwear, which she still tells that story to this day. And so
that sounds like a story to tell.
It was honestly. Once I tell it, it'll lose its luster. I'll just leave you guys in wonder.
Okay, all right.
It sounds better when you have to wonder.
You'll leave us in HR in wonder.
Yeah. Also, I love that last company, but there is no HR. It was the way a business should be run.
It sounds like there should be HR.
Yeah, guys, Vegas. I don't know how else to get this link out. Maybe I'll ask the Twitter account to post it again. To RSVP.
Yeah, we gotta do that. It's gonna be fun. Well, I do have. Oh, go ahead, Kenton. You have something else?
I have another question off the change of subject. Do you want to keep going?
No. Go with your question. I've asked enough.
So I've had another question. Somebody else asked me this, Chad, and let me put it in the chat, and then I'll show it on the stream. Okay, could THORChain work as an RFQ, request for quote, more like an OTC desk for whales or institutions that want to buy in or move from asset to asset? Many big dexes use several RFQ exchanges for big trades.
Yes, the simple answer is yes. And that is something that I actually I've been thinking about on and off the last few months. In the back of my little brain juices here. I think it's a really good idea to do that. It's to offer a OTC like experience. And that's probably I assume to be one of, if not the biggest, one of the biggest sources of revenue or volume for sexes, like Krakens and Coinbases and Binances and thing like that. Whether what somebody who uses OTC on a sex, whether they would want to do that in a DEX, I don't know about that. I mean, I could see it going either way in that sense. But I think what makes what's key to this is that when you do an OTC, usually there's a minimum requirement of capital in each trade, which I think for most OTC desks is like $100,000. So if you're going to trade less than $100,000, OTC is not even available to you. But if you do, then you get a slightly better offer by price. And so you go to the OTC desk and you say, hey, I want to trade $100,000 worth of Rune for $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. And they give you a quote saying, okay, we're willing to do it at this ratio between the two assets, whatever that number might be is. And then you confirm with them, usually confirming in more than one way through like email as well as using like Signal or something like this. And then you've set the price and you're going to execute at that price and for some period of time, and they can cancel at any time, say, well, we canceled the quote because markets had shifted or something like this. And they kind of guarantee that price for as long as they can. That is something I do want to do in general, but the question becomes like, who wears the risk and all this kind of stuff. And so I haven't thought deeply about it yet, but it is something I've been thinking about in the back of my mind.
Yeah, 'cause and forgive me, like, basically what he's asking, like, this RFQ is, like, you're locking in a price.
Yes, you're locking in a
And
price.
yeah, and the only way to
Correct.
lock in someone's gotta be exposed when you lock that price in. And, um, generally, like, the whoever's locking it in will take on a short and to hedge themselves.
Yeah.
So, and that's gotta be done manually. I don't understand how this could be done algorithmically. Um,
Yeah, that's up for debate. I think I mean I haven't seen or they're talking about there's some big dexes that do RFQs. I don't know which ones those are off the top of my head, but if we
what
do
are
it,
they DEXs? Like,
yeah, like it might
DEX in the
be like
front, DEX in the back?
Uniswap's like intense layer could be used in the sense of where it's not really it's done through a DEX, but it's not solved by a DEX. It's solved by some individual human, which kind of like an intense works. If we do this, I would prefer to do it that the protocol is the solver in these scenarios rather than some random person. Um, Whether that's possible or not, and what the risks are of that, I think that's remains to be seen. Or it could be done by like the Treasury or something like a Nine Realms entity of some kind that could be the solver for this kind of stuff. Or it could be we could even have a partnership with Kraken or something, or whatever. But I don't know. It requires more thought and research and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it does sound like Intense would actually kinda solve that.
I would.
Um,
That's what I was
he's
thinking too. But I don't
It,
know.
it's
Intense kind of helps, but isn't really solved because, well, it kind of does. It kind of does and kind of doesn't. So, like, the way that our Intense is designed is that the one that we're trying to get merged is that it does it in a reverse auction way, right? Where you state what the most use you want to receive in Bitcoin and the least you want to receive in Bitcoin, and the network will just kind of like walk down for somebody to just to provide the other side, whatever that is. And that's kind of like an intent, you know what I mean? But you're still not saying having a specific agreed upon price before that's actually done.
okay.
Gotcha.
Sorry for replying
I
to someone
I
in the
um
chat.
I know what question it was, Kenton. I forgot to ask. That's my fault. So we have a question from the audience here, chat. I don't know if I fully understand, but I'm just gonna put on here. Can we open whitelisting secondary pools with a dedicated pendulum? Let's call it Class B pendulum, where anyone can provide but get rewards. No additional cost to node operators, but more volume for THORChain.
Do that question again because there's multiple layers to that question.
Yeah, here I'll put it up again for you.
So secondary pools already, you can create as many pools as you want on THORChain as long as it's a whitelisted asset. Anybody can do that right now, I believe. Then this person wants to put a secondary and pendulum on those pools.
Sorry to interrupt you, Chad. I think what he meant was, could we have the Bitcoin pool currently? Could we create, which has synth leverage? Could we have another Bitcoin pool without synth leverage or anything like that? Has rewards, does whatever. Is that what you meant, Soda?
Oh, is that what you mean?
To have like a parallel pool to an existing pool? Is that what you meant, Soda Max?
I didn't know if you meant like new pools or versus like you're talking about a duplicate pool.
Let's get him to respond.
Yeah. Well,
I actually have some. I'm sorry. I have a resource prepared here, I believe, because I remember this. This is something I banked from a while ago. Let me bring it up here. This was a different kind of LP or what, some sort of unit. Gosh dang it, I'm bungling it here. I've got it on Discord. Bringing it up right now. And I read it in here. So crazy idea, Boone, if we introduce a third type of pool unit that would re-enable deposits to synth pools to behave like deal. Then Cal, this is last year. I was thinking about exactly this. Well, it might make sense to do next year. So we can get around the synth leverage problem, essentially, Chad, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me think about that. I have to explore the math a little bit about that because there could be some sharp edges. But
yeah,
the theory there at a high level is that we have pool units and we have synth units, right? And the synth units control how much of the value the synths have versus the LPs have. And then the LP units or the pool units is about what which LP has, right? And if you want to create an exclusion that anybody depositing Rune or Bitcoin to the Bitcoin pool right now, you'd have to create a secondary pool unit system, which is difficult because the capital is still moving fluidly between the two, right? Because
gotcha.
like, how would you know? Like, right now there's, let's just call it $30 million in the Bitcoin pool, whatever the actual, I don't know what the actual number is, but whatever it is, let's just call it 30 million. And then somebody deploys $1 million into this new pool unit system, pool unit 2, right? And then the pool's value goes to something higher or something lower. It might be hard to calculate, like, or how that could be mixed, how the synth units could affect that, and
Right.
it's almost like, it almost feels like the 3-body problem, if that makes sense to anybody. Like, it's a physics problem of like, you cannot calculate. You can calculate mathematically like what a orbit is around 2 bodies, right? But you can't do it around 3 bodies. It's called a 3-body problem. Assuming all 3 bodies are similar size. If they're different sizes, you can't calculate it. But if it's similar sizes, it becomes basically impossible. It's too much chaos. It's like it's impossible to figure out the answer to the question. That may be the case with this whole idea of pool units too. I'd have to spend some time with the math and start like playing around with it and exploring and experimenting and to wrap my head fully around it.
Gotcha. I mean, maybe we went down a tangent that he was, because he says, I'm talking about other assets without rewards. There is no point for new providers, but we don't want to attack nodes and bonds revenue, hence other assets. So I guess just more pools, I think, duplicate pools, I think. But
Yeah, so he sounds like he's like new assets, right? So a new token on Ethereum or something like this. And you can't do that in a way that doesn't take from providers, from nodes rather, because right now nodes is getting all the yield. So, yeah,
I think the POL, I think it's really complicated. I think if the novel solution is THORChain to go POL, right? And then that's the pool depth, LPs, and then the validators get I think that's what makes the most sense.
yeah. If the validators choose what percentage of system income is going to the POL, and the POL is just continuously deploying more or less every block or whatever it is to whatever it is the most valuable place to put that liquidity, wherever it's getting the highest volume relative to depth or highest fees relative to depth.
Right.
That would just be, putting more capital in all the right places.
Yeah.
to make us more efficient.
Yeah.
Which could be Solana, and it could be Monero, and it could be stable coins, it could be Bitcoin, like whatever that makes the most mathematical sense.
So I was, I've been pretty hot on my liquidity pendulum idea to move liquidity from one pool to another. But actually, Boone he made a comment in the thread that if you withdraw from a pool where that's when you realize the permanent loss. The permanent loss becomes permanent. And I'm like, I actually wasn't even thinking like that. And so like, because these pools the POL is gonna have impermanent loss for sure, because no yield, right? So maybe we shouldn't be moving the POL from one pool to another. Then once it goes into a pool, it's done, it's there. And it's just a question of where are we topping up? And that's the only thing that's changing is where it's topping up. But once it goes in, it's done. It's locked in that pool and just stays there. Does that make sense? I'm assuming it'd probably be easier from a code point of view. Uh,
Well, it's complicated because one is we don't allow people to withdraw or add to the Bitcoin pool. That's really the bigger problem, to be honest with you, of the idea of redistributing POL, because you can't withdraw from the Bitcoin pool because we paused it because of the whole synth thing and all these things. So that's really the actual kind of blocker to this in some ways. But you're right. Impermanent loss would be realized if you have a permanent loss, it would be realized at that moment in time. But it would be if you didn't have a permanent loss, it was actually going the other direction, right? Then you could actually, no, permanent loss is always a loss. Never mind. Yeah, you'd always realize some kind of loss, but because it depends on where you joined and what ratio between the two assets did you add your liquidity. And if you're in a situation where you're constantly adding liquidity every block or something like this, then where is your impermanent loss even sitting at? It's becomes a little bit more complicated to even calculate how much loss you've had, I think. Just if you've had multiple deposits.
yeah. Okay. Um, so you mentioned with the POL idea about the nodes adding or voting on what percentage of the revenue should go to POL. What about where the POL actually goes? What pool it goes into? Do you think the node should be deciding, or that should be decided algorithmically?
That should be done algorithmically. Like in general, THORChain has opted to have very little governance on the protocol, right? I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes with the ADR votes and all that kind of stuff, but in reality, there are so many mathematical equations within the code base that determine the behavior in XYZ scenario. Like we don't control what the synth limit is in the past. You know what I mean? Like it's just all calculated. So governance is always a problem in any system, whether it be an American system or some DAO system. Governance is always a problem, just by default. So I always try to remove governance as much as possible from the protocol. Just because it's easier, it's easier, faster to get to behave in the correct thing given these market conditions. So in my opinion, what should happen is the protocol should evaluate how much fees have been collected or volume has been done per pool relative to its depth. And then the one that has you would do volume divided by depth or fees divided by depth. And the, lowest ratio between those two things would give you the highest return to deploy it to.
Well, we have a guest speaker here, and
Welcome.
this is always possible, you guys. Anyone can join the show,
Yeah.
right? And no one hardly ever does. So thank you, Max Power. Want to test your mic, buddy? And we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can
Yeah,
hear you,
we can
buddy.
hear
Go
you.
for it. What do you got?
Hi guys. I was trying to add what I was driving the whole time. I was like, I can't stop there in the middle of nowhere. Good to hear you guys, by the way. So just to clarify, it's kind of hard to mention what I was thinking there, just with that message. So it's an early idea I've already pushed before, but I had that discussion with Alex about creating. That was, I guess, the first point, a parallel pool, but so the point is that we can't add liquidity to the current synth pool without affecting users. So the point to create a parallel pool was so that people can add to it. without affecting. And as time goes, eventually people will withdraw over time from the old pools, and that will eventually go to zero, as new pools should tend to just whatever liquidity is at that time up, hopefully. But that wasn't the point of my question that I just wrote. So the secondary pools, or class B, I wrote, was to add liquidity to other assets that we don't have currently, because a lot of our volume comes from arbing, right? We know that. So the more asset we have on THORChain, the better it is for the protocol. But we can't do that if we don't give any. Nobody's going to put anything anywhere if there is no reward to have. So the point of these other pools, since POL can't do all, like it can't be everywhere, right? So if we have users being able to provide and do some rewards on that, something interesting, obviously, liquidity will come. I mean, if there is good APY on some assets, stables, whatever it is, liquidity will come, but they need reward. So without affecting current or future node operators' revenue, it would have to be something that wouldn't be added as a cost for the infrastructure, right? So any token on current chain could be eligible for that.
So do you want to create a new Bitcoin pool, a new Bitcoin room pool, leave the current one the way it is, create an entire new pool that allows anybody to LP?
No, that's already an asset that we have right now. So we wouldn't be able to do that without affecting node revenue, right? So it would be like, let's say, an asset we don't have right now, another USD something there, or any token, any meme. Well, probably not meme. That's the thing too. You don't want some. That's why I was talking about whitelisting, because you don't want something that can rug, and we know what kind of problem that brings to THORChain too with the liquidity.
Yeah, we already
So it
have
have to be
a whitelist already.
exactly. So it would have to be, so that we can add more and more of that. But the problem is that right now nobody's going to add anything because there is no revenue to be made. So that's why they would need their own pendulum where people can provide, but
Right.
with an adequate pendulum.
Yeah, so your question really is about wanting to get the incentive pendulum working again, or something similar to it, so that some percentage of the system income is going to LPs and some of it is going to nodes. I think that's a challenging thing in the current scenario, because even when we had this incentive pendulum and it was working 100% and everything was great, we weren't seeing a huge number of people adding new pools all the time, right? And it was mostly the treasury that was the driving force, but behind adding new pools and this kind of stuff anyway. I think the math of being an LP is kind of a difficult one, because it's hard to calculate what the yield is going to be for something like this. You do have impermanent loss that could be a lot, and it could be a little, depending upon how sideways the market's moving, and it just becomes like a hard thing to reason about. And so I think the general mentality, at least that I have, and I think other people are having, is that we're moving away from individual LPs, some random person from the community LPing, some whatever asset it is, and moving towards, the POL to be deploying these things. For new pools or new assets, that would be probably started by the treasury. That's what we've been doing for this whole time. Like we're LPing into the Solana pool right now, for example, the treasury is. And so just to get it started, and then after that, the POL could start adding more liquidity to that pool if it chose to.
I think.
Good.
Well, I was going to say, I was an LP for a long time, right? And I agree with Chad. It's so hard to educate people about LPing, and I did it for years, and it was very difficult to explain the behaviorism because, again, in permanent loss and what are the assets going to do, and for me, now we're where we're at, I just think it just makes everything so simple and clean. If we have a POL add mechanism that's always injecting liquidity in the pools, deep in the TVL, which is good, right? It's controllable, and you don't have to worry about a third party like an LP like myself or anyone else from pulling out. Like, that liquidity is always going to be there, and it makes everything so easy to model. I wonder if a second pool is maybe just too much complexity to warrant the potential upside. That's what my instinct says, because now, like, everything makes so much more sense to me. Like, I can explain it really simple, and educating people now is much easier. Beforehand, educating people with LPs, it was a challenge, right? But now I really feel like the vision is kind of crystal clear, especially. I mean, I'd be curious to see. I think what would be really curious to see is Chad implements the Mimir for POL ads. Whatever happens, happens. We just see what happens, right? Like, if we have constant infusion of liquidity in these pools, I think we might have been solving this problem itself, but it's a different
Yeah.
interesting idea, Max, for sure.
It
To
like
be,
oh, go ahead, Max.
I was just gonna say, to be fair, I had like liquidity in almost every pool since the beginning, and they were all green before. They
I
were all
know.
green. There before Torfa, I managed to withdraw like a good chunk of it before everything went to shit. But I mean everything was mostly green before it went down. So I mean it wasn't a bad mechanism. I mean you have to be a little bit knowledgeable of what you do, but I mean it's not infeasible. Trust me. I had some good gains in some pools, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just ran into problems with just the cognitive overload that it required to understand the risks that you
yeah,
were
no,
actually
I
getting
get
hit
you
with.
for a minute.
And I know like JP kind of threw around this idea a while back about having the yield of like, because you're always making yield, right? You may not be making profit because the permanent loss is going one direction or the other, but like you're always making yield because people are swapping and the pool is increasing in value from the swaps alone. And so the idea was that that you wouldn't keep the yield in the pool. The yield would be swapped to USDC and sent to your Thor address. So you'd like get a constant stream of like USDC kind of flowing into your Thor address or whatever, and then you would be able to like just have the like keep the yield, but the principal stays where it is, and that's going up or down or whatever depending upon price movements.
Well, I mean, LP is basically you're just racing, ILP versus APY. That's all you
Yeah,
do when you're LP.
correct.
So
I
Yeah.
like this. I like this move to POL. The more I think about it, the more I like it, and
Yeah.
I think the community agrees
I
too. Because like
absolutely agree with that too.
because
Yeah,
it also removes reflexivity in Rune. Because if we're going into a bad market and we get organic LPs withdrawing, that reduces the size of the pools, reduces our volume further, and we get that downward spiral type thing. If it's POL and it's locked, it doesn't matter what the market is. That liquidity is not leaving. The fine the because of the token prices will change and might affect the value of the pools, but no LPs are pulling out. So
it's a little bit like a burn, sort of. Not
and
exactly,
yeah,
but like
then it's also
Yeah.
like a burn.
I
it's
think it is.
kind of like
We're
a burn, but not instead of burning, you're just contributing to the protocol.
Yeah, so we get that benefit out of it. Um, and like Chad said, like the whole point of the yield is to attract capital to the pools, and it's like we spent what like 2 years. I mean, but node operators, bond providers we're trying to push the pendulum to the pools, try to get more yield there, try to go to the pools. It wasn't happening. And then for people that are in the we basically have two liquidity providers right now: the POL, the protocol, and then legacy people who are sitting on zeros. And if we keep adding to the pool, like, aren't we actually making it harder for you to get back to even if we keep adding yield? Because we keep reducing the synth leverage. So,
Well, we're probably not adding into pools where there's synths. First of all, we're probably just
no,
adding into probably stable or not even stable necessarily, but like newer pools,
Yeah.
most
so I mean
likely.
APY. If we had APYs going again, the APY is screwing up your leverage because you're being deposited. Um,
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
out.
Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, just where I was going with this is, man, I would love to see 20% POL, which I think is a reasonable number because that's nodes are getting what let's just call it 80%. No, what 75% right now. If we had a real pendulum working, at least 20% would be going to the pools anyway, right? It shouldn't be maxed out to the nodes. So if we get at least 20% going to the pools, if we're at $20 million a year revenue, that's $4 million in new TVL. Max, what you're saying about new pools, like, you know, I feel pretty strongly we should get at least 30 or 50 new pools, like different ERC20s, whatever. I'd love to see the Ripple dollar, RL USD, XRP's stablecoin, stuff like that. Tether has the Rajira guys are really want to get the Tether gold token. We can get all these pools going for like, if the treasury can start it with a few grand and then the POL takes over and ramps them up with 50 or 100 grand. That's all we need. These pools don't have to be super huge. Like to start, 50 grand for these pools is a really good starting point. Combined with all the efficiencies Chad has been doing and making THORChain more efficient, we're getting more volume out of less liquidity.
Right.
So the need to get these, like I wouldn't be surprised at one point our Bitcoin pool is just, well, actually I'd argue right now the Bitcoin pool is probably too big than what we need. We're not using it to its full capacity because we're not doing like, $30 million. It can handle $30 million trades, but we're not doing that many of them. If we have pools that are like 50, 100, a few hundred grand, that's probably good enough for these pools. They don't need to be much bigger than that. And then, like to start anyway, right? And as THORChain grows, they can grow too. But I think with a nice slug going to POL, we could get some nice TVL going here and some brand new pools going pretty easily.
The thing I hear people say is, like Chad said it well, it's kind of a burn. And I firmly believe that. Some people say, well, okay, if you put POL into the pools, that rune can be arbed out. And I just like remind people, yeah, that's what we want. Because if rune is being arbed out of the pools, that means rune went up more relative to market cap to the assets paired with. That means rune's price went up. We want rune to be arbed out of the pools because that's the sign of success, right? Like that's what we want. So I think it's an absolutely great idea, and I'm so stoked to see it happen. And yeah, shout out to you, Chad. Rapid swaps I think is going to be an absolute game changer for the reasons Kenton said, making THORChain more efficient with its liquidity. Like back in 2021, 2022, I would have never dreamed we would have been this efficient with liquidity. I mean, we're doing pool swaps that are deeper or bigger than the depth of the pool themselves is a freaking crazy thing. And now it's like, I mean, come on.
Well, that was the gist of all the mistakes and sins from the past, was to try and engineer liquidity, right? When the engineering was just making trades more efficient, which indirectly increased, our liquidity, right? So it's going awesome. It's going good now.
Yes, it is.
Can I ask you a question regarding the POL allocation? So we know, like, I think I had the discussion with Danny earlier. It was like 60 or 65% of THORChain volume comes from arbing, right? So attributing that POL wouldn't be the wisest to go where most of that volume is done, right? So since we like, the deeper the pool is, the harder it is to move that price. So it requires more arbing. So having deeper pool of, let's say, Bitcoin, doesn't matter if this is where volume comes from arbing. I mean, you want that as deep as possible. It just makes it harder to move that price. So it requires more arbing.
Yeah.
You follow?
Yep.
Deeper pools is better than shallow pools in all cases and scenarios. It's never a case where we're gonna be like, well, we don't want deep pools. This becomes more of a question of like how deep does a pool need to be in order to facilitate relatively large trades, and how far can you get with a $100,000 pool in depth, like in real usage?
Quite far, I think.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the arbs more than anything at that point.
True. Yeah.
Really, like, because if we want to be competitive against other dexes out there, in time wise, right? If you have a very shallow pool, you're going to have more sub swaps for a large trade than you would in the Bitcoin pool. It's very deep, and so it takes more time in those smaller pools or more shallow pools for $100,000 trade to pass through it, right? And so it all depends on the arbs in the end with rapid swaps of how fast that actually executes in the end.
Yeah. We are coming at 2 hours, Chad. Thank you so much always for your time. Then this has been such a fun episode. I'm having a great time. I had a quick one. I got to do it. You know, I'm addicted.
Are you changing the subject, Denny?
Go ahead, Kenton.
I want to keep on this POL. Sorry, not
Okay.
to beat a dead horse.
So go ahead, buddy.
But I wanted to add something. Our new BD guy, Randy, I mean, he's on it talking to all these different protocols, not just wallets for integrations, but just talking to protocols about getting grants for them to add liquidity to their pools or to start a pool with their token. So that's another source of liquidity for us, right? And, some of them, the bigger guys, they might be willing to do a few $100,000, right? Bing, bang, boom, done. We get that pool going, right? And then we can add POL on top of that.
True.
So there is other ways for us to source liquidity for the pools that we're trying to do.
Would that now you a question? Would that POL add? What's the stipulation there? They can withdraw for so much time, or withdraw whenever they want, or it's
Yeah,
permanent.
Yeah, that
yeah, it should be liquid for them that they can.
Yeah.
Like in theory, we should. Well, it's not like we should these new pools. Anyone can add. There's just no yield, right? So
Right.
they're gonna have to take on the IL.
Right.
So then you might be wondering why would a protocol do that? It's like, well, guys, these guys give their tokens to centralized exchanges and market makers who just dump on them, right? They're paying to get liquidity on these other platforms, and they just dump. Like I was talking to a friend who works at like an operations company that does like operations for crypto foundations, and the market makers try and bribe these guys to send the new token holders to these market makers because they've built this whole business around just dumping on people, and like it's a racket, and so it is so bad, like or so good for the market makers that like um, I don't know if this is public, so maybe I shouldn't say it, but there's a a market maker you guys probably heard of is buying one of these operators to get access to deal flow, basically. So these new crypto protocols will use them as a market maker for their token, but then they go and dump it on them. So where I'm going with this, yeah, THORChain may not have any yield and a permanent loss, but it's still a much lower loss than what they're going to get with their traditional market maker. If you're following me, so they can, and if the POLs, the liquidity is getting big enough, POL is taking over, and they want to pull out one day, they can, right? That's liquidity is great for attracting capital. You as soon as you say it's locked up for X amount of time or years or whatever, you get less. If you tell them you can withdraw it the next day, you get more, and they never withdraw the next day. They'll still hold for years. It's just in their mind. The ability to be liquid, to get out,
Makes
gives them the
sense.
comfort to do more, but they'll still be sticky anyway. So yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I just wasn't sure because when I think grant, I think of grant as giving. You know what I mean? But that, yeah.
Well,
But
totally. And that's the way to frame it for Randy. Is it like this isn't giving us money? This is still yours.
yeah,
You have custody. And you're
makes
putting
sense.
it in the pool and you're furthering your ecosystem and providing another a liquidity source, right? But they're in control. So it should be an easier sell for us. Um, yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. So we are coming up at 2 hours. Chad, I want to kick it to you real quick. This year, we're approaching the middle of it. We're in April. How we doing, man? How do you feel? Good. I feel good. But I'm just curious, how do you, are we expectation wise? You feel like we're shipping pretty well? Like, what's your pulse? A little pulse check from you. How are we doing, man?
my perspective is that I think we're doing very well for 2026, I would say. And the reason why I say that is because we've launched major features like limit swaps, like rapid swaps. We've got Solana already launched. We got Zcash coming soon. We got lots of more chains coming. The roadmap looks good. The roadmap looks healthy. Treasury's doing pretty well, health wise. We have the team. We have more developers now than we've had in quite a while, right? So I think on most metrics we are doing very, very well, especially during a time frame when most projects are either completely dead or very close to it, in this kind of bearish times. So I feel very bullish about the situation. I'm very happy I have the dev team that I have. I'm very happy about the roadmap that is, that we're working on, which we can go more details what the roadmap includes if you want to. But I think we're in a very strong situation. Some things need to be kind of cleansed or removed from the protocol, just to kind of um, get rid of some kind of sluggy, muggy things we had before. I'm not going to go into specifics of what or who that is, but we're kind of shedding the kind of dead weight, if you want to call it that, and moving forward with a very nimble and focused and revived team. And Randy is a good example of that. Randy's coming in as a development person, breathing some new air into business development and doing a good job in that sense.
I absolutely love that. Is Randy coming to the THORChain meetup, Kenton? Do you know?
Yes, he'll be there as well.
Very good.
Yep.
I didn't see a Randy name on there, so maybe he needs to sign the RSP.
He might.
Maybe he did. Maybe I missed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll poke him if he's not already done it. But yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there for sure.
Perfect. Awesome. In the outro of these things, we still have the Go developer. Are you still looking for developers, Chad? I just want to check.
No, at this moment, not really. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't. If somebody came along that was really good pickup, you pick them up when you can pick them up, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But right now we have enough of a staff for now to accomplish all the goals we want to be accomplishing. So, and we have more people participating, like Boone, for example. And we have somebody working on the Tau stuff and the BitTensor stuff, and so there's more developers externally as well that are contributing. I guess in part because of AI is making it so much easier for people to get more involved from a technical perspective.
Freaking cool. Kenton, did you have anything else? I had one more question, but I want to make sure I bring you in.
Well, I just kind of wanted to bring it back to Max. I don't know. I feel like we maybe cut him off. I don't know if you had any more questions
Max is
or
here, yeah.
anything else you wanted to say. Any comments or questions you have, Max?
I get no. I'm always going to log off of the stream there. Just go as a speaker. Nice chatting with you guys. I'll see you in Vegas. See the rest
Yeah,
of the tour
right on.
in Vegas.
Later,
See you,
Max.
Max. Thanks for coming up. I feel bad. I feel like when we're doing spaces, we had more people come up. Let us know, guys. Are we doing a bad job of not getting the link out there? Hopefully,
I think
Max.
it's just there's more resistance because there's more friction.
Yeah.
Spaces, you can just hit the button and you're up, and it's pretty here. I have to go to the riverside.com. I have to do this thing and click the link, and it's a little bit more of a hassle.
Yeah.
At least we do our best with answering questions in the public chat. But yeah, we always want to improve, guys. We definitely don't want to have we don't want to gatekeep at all. That's not intention. That was actually the opposite of what we want to accomplish. But we just, man, having Chad just drop some bombs. It's the best content ever. We can make these short clips. You know what I mean? And it's fantastic. Real quick, I know we're coming at 2 hours, or actually past 2 hours. I just want to talk about AI because you did mention it, Chad. The cloud did get leaked. It's pretty much the whole thing was open source as far as I know. I haven't looked too deep into that. Does that affect us in any way? Can you get more utility out of it, or is it just a happenstance and it's not really consequential to THORChain?
To Claude's?
Yeah. But the whole CLI was leaked or something.
The whole code base was leaked by accident.
Yeah.
It wasn't even leaked. It was like published in the NPM package, which is not the first time this happened. This is the second time that's happened in Claude Code's history.
Oh, interesting.
I think we keep on seeing these funny things happen. Like it's happened for AWS as well, where AWS has their own AI thing called Huron or something like this. I forget the name of it. And like they're literally telling their developers, like, you need to use this 80% of the time. If you're not, then we're gonna have we're gonna dock you in your kind of performance report. Or like it's like threatening to our developers. Like, you must use our AI thing. And then multiple times they've seen these massive issues where like AI just like, I'm just gonna delete the entire code base and like start over from zero. And that's like a real thing that really happened for AWS, you know what I mean? And so like Claude's had the same thing where, I'm just going to have, they say it was a human error. maybe that's true. I don't know, but I don't know. It's the problem is that like it's a very fascinating thing of like AI codes very fast, right? It's moving 1,000 miles per hour. Humans are moving at 30 miles per hour, right? And so everything could be going super fast, but humans keep on getting in the way and slowing it down because you always move at the speed of your lowest common denominator, which in this case is 30 miles per hour in our hypothetical here. And so there's such temptation as a team or as a CTO or whatever, as an ADA, whatever, to just like remove humans from the process, just have AI do it all, and then you're moving at 1,000 miles per hour, which is very appetizing from a business perspective, right? To move that quickly and all these things. But then you also have these like crazy situations where code gets leaked, entire code bases are deleted and recreated, which is crazy to think about because it's not thinking intelligently. It's thinking, what is the next token, right? It doesn't have an ability to actually measure the complexity, blah, 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 because it's just not that. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing, right? But for us, I think we're staying on the 30 miles per hour mentality.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Boys, if we have anything else we want to talk about before we wrap it up?
No.
I have a couple things.
Go for it. Love it.
This is I think the community will have fun with this. So there's two things that I am considering, and I'm not going to go into too much depth right now because I need to do a lot more research myself. But I was having some conversations with some devs earlier, and there's some interest. Actually, three things. There's three things actually. And then Kenya's going to love the third one actually. The first one is concentrated liquidity. Historically, I've always been against concentrated liquidity. And the reason why is because by doing so, if you're a passive LP and you're not running software that is constantly updating your lower, your higher ticks of your concentrated liquidity position, then you just get screwed and you can't make a yield. And then you're only getting in permanent loss. And so anytime we've seen concentrated liquidity implemented, whether it be Uniswap's a really good example where like 80% of people are like underwater, right? Because only 5% are actually making any money on it because they're running these really advanced bots that are constantly updating the positions and beating everybody else, which is why I was always against it. But if we're heading towards a more POL mentality, right? If we're heading away from people, doing this, then theoretically, I need to do more research. We can use the Oracle system that the app layer implemented, where all the validators are going to Binance and Kraken, and I think it's like 18 different exchanges or something like this. I don't know what the exact number is, but grabbing the Bitcoin price and Ethereum price from a whole myriad of places and then pushing that on chain and getting consensus. And then using that as the POL's ability to create upper and lower ticks, right, for a constant liquidity position. Now you can get to a place, theoretically, I believe, and again, I need to do more research, where we're even getting more utility out of whatever liquidity we have, because Kenton was just saying we get 100,000 is enough. We're getting a lot of distance with not much liquidity, right? In a matter of speaking. And now we can get even more because we can get 3, 6, maybe 20 times the efficiency with concentrated liquidity that the POL is pushing in using the Oracle of the validators to give it the concentration, the appropriate upper and lower bounds concentration. That's one thing I want to consider.
It's a great idea.
Start doing some research. Because the POL has lots of liquidity, and if it were to take that position and do that, it would theoretically make things a lot more efficient.
That's a great idea.
That's the first.
Yeah.
That's number one. Okay.
Would the wrench, or would it depend on ARBs then? How quickly the ARBs can ARB the pool? If they can't ARB the pool well enough, then it blows up. As long as the ARBs are on it and they can ARB it, basically the tighter the window we could have, the more efficient the ARBs are.
I am not sure if ARBs matter in this context, to be honest with you, because if the pool price is over here and the lower and upper ticks are over here, the POL is basically not providing liquidity in the pool in this particular moment, I think. I think.
Okay.
Mathematically, like it's like it's outside. If it's not, but usually you almost always have a lower and upper tick that it includes whatever the actual pool price is in the middle. The question is how far is it 1 bip or 2 bips above and below the price do you want to serve? I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm outing myself and understanding customer liquidity. I thought if the price falls out of your window, you're wiped out. You lose your whole position. Um, I could
That
be totally wrong, guys.
you could be right.
I don't play with pools much, so I could be totally wrong.
I don't think that's how it works, but I could be
Okay.
totally mistaken. Like I said, I'm
Right.
still researching this myself, wrap my head around. This
Yeah.
is early stages, kind of just playing with some ideas that might be really helpful. So that's the first one. It's constant liquidity. The second one, there's some conversations about enabling or adding the ability of doing flash loans on THORChain. And a flash loan, if you don't know what that is that like you get a loaned a bunch of capital, like more than you put in. Like you put in $10,000 and you get a $30,000 loan or something like this. And as long as you settle it in the same block, meaning that you take the loan, you do something with it, and then you repay the loan, within the same block, everything is fine. But if you can't do that in the same block, then it doesn't really work. And so the idea is to use to do a flash loan for specifically ARBs to give them more capital to be able to ARB the pools more effectively. Lots of it needs to be worked out. It's a very multifaceted, very complicated thing that it requires some deep thought, but it is an interesting idea that I wanted to spend more time kind of like researching and diving into the depths more of it. But theoretically, it might be possible to do flash loans for ARBs to give them 2-3x more capital to more effectively ARB the pools.
It's an interesting idea because this is something like the big centralized exchanges do. They actually provide capital to their market makers, right? To help them arb the uh, prices. So that's what THORChain would be doing in theory. How would you make it so that only arbs could do it? Like if this THORChain's permissionless,
Well, and
everybody
anybody
could do it.
could do it, but it would
Yeah.
be targeted for ARBs. Like it'd be
Okay.
I don't know why you would do it on, like it makes sense. Flash loans make sense on Ethereum land because you can get a flash loan, do a trade, do a thing on this smart contract, and then go to this smart contract and do this other thing, and then come back to the original flash loan and pay off your flash loan, right? Like because you can daisy chain a bunch of different smart contracts and do very complicated things, and you just need a lot of capital to execute on something, but it's a perfectly valid procedure or a process, whatever, or steps that you're taking. And then it kind of works. On THORChain land, flash loans don't really make that much sense because you can't just take a loan and then like go do something else with it. Maybe with the app layer, that's kind of changing. But I never thought I've always disliked flash loans historically because it's like now even capital doesn't require capital anymore. Like it was just kind of like a brain like numbing concept. Like in order to attack, like if you needed $200 million to attack a smart contract, to do a thing, flash loans make it so you don't need $200 million. You could do it with 10 or whatever the hell the number might be. And you could attack a smart contract and price manipulate and blah, 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 theoretically. So, it's kind of a crazy notion that but it's been used for years, and that there are obviously very legitimate use case for it. And so I just want to explore the idea of doing it for THORChain. And the only use case that I can think of that makes logical sense to me is arbing, right? But maybe I'm mistaken with that. We'll see. It's again, this is all just floating interesting ideas at for fun conversation.
Oh, don't worry, Chad. Someone will be in Discord telling you that you got to stop the update. Next update, this can't go through. Put the brakes on. This can't happen.
Well, I mean, these things that I'm talking about aren't very risky, in my opinion. Or at least we haven't done enough research to even know how risky they are or not. To be honest with you. So, and again, like I'm just gonna like I don't want to do risky things with the protocol. Like right, we've already kind of like learned our lessons as a community about we already want to sit on the risk profile kind of bell curve, if you want to call it that. So all this is going to require, a lot of research and verification. And of course, everything comes through the community for voting and those things as well.
Of course.
You know?
But that was just number one, though. You got 2 more ideas for us,
Well,
Chad?
that was number
Well,
2.
that was number 2. So
number
one
2. I'm
was
sorry.
cluster liquidity is 1, flash loans is number 2.
Oh, flash loans. Gotcha. Okay.
Is number 2, and then the third one, which I know Kenton was like, I talked a lot more about decentralizing UIs, and I had a design for doing this a while back for Archeo that never really got fully realized for reasons we don't need to go into, but it always kind of saddened me that it never really got realized because it's a really important, concept of like building a framework, if you want to call it that, protocol, where is a deployable, decentralized UI. Like that's what's so amazing about Ethereum when it was first came out, is that like it was a generic platform where you could deploy something onto it and it would give you a decentralized smart contract to execute any arbitrary piece of code that you wanted to within Solidity. And we should have the functional equivalent of a smart contract like thing where you can deploy, instead of deploying a smart contract, you're deploying our user interface, right? And so I had a design for this. I had a plan for this years ago, and I was gunning for Archeo to do it, but it hasn't happened quite yet. And instead of waiting for it to get there, there's this idea that we might be doing it on the THORChain side. And that would be not just, in my mind, it would not just be for, swap.thorchain.org or even just thorchain.org, but be, a generic, a generalized platform that any UI, Uniswap, 1inch, Hyperliquid, right? Whatever, doesn't really matter. And that we can build that so that there's this, that fully decentralizes every aspect and component of any particular stack for any DeFi application. I think it's obviously taking us away from the cross-chain swaps that is our bread and butter in a sense. But it would provide a lot more usage out of our validators and out of our network, and even the Rune token, I suppose, add a new demand center for it.
This doesn't take away at all. I think this ties in beautifully, perfectly, because we have to be permissionless, uncensorable, and the fact that we could actually offer that to others, I mean, that's fantastic marketing. How does that, maybe that lands us new integrations, that lands us notoriety. Like you said, okay, Uniswap uses it. Fine. They don't integrate THORChain on their front end, but they're using THORChain's infrastructure to decentralize their front end. We're still getting publicity, right? And that actually this is huge because, it's like the nodes getting off AWS. There's all these choke points in the stack, right? Where's all these points of centralization? And right now with THORChain and all of DeFi really is the interface. That's a choke point. And like, if they, want to come after, Big Brother, but totalitarian wants to do anything, that's a choke point where they can go. So no, I think this is huge. I think this is incredible. Just as important for our cross-chain swaps, people have to be able to access them. If they can't access it, then right, what's the point? So, what I'm curious is this like I was talking to somebody else about this, and they're saying we can decentralize the front end all we want, but the actual URL, like who controls the DNS settings? Like, where do we actually have the URL registered, like registrar? Like, for example, if we're using GoDaddy, like that's like, the government just go knock on GoDaddy's door and, hey, turn off this URL.
It's like the Pirates Bay problem, right?
Yeah.
Like Pirates Bay was running these BitTorrent things where you could download, copyrighted content, like, Shawshank Redemption or some movie or whatever it is, Marvel film or whatever. And they would get their piratesbay.com banned or blocked or something, and they buy a new domain that's piratesbay.org or some other Italian domain or
Yeah.
whatever the random thing it is.
Yeah.
So there's multiple components to this. Like, so the first thing is this: there's a core decentralization question that, in my opinion, nobody has solved yet, and I don't even know how to solve it myself necessarily. And that is, like, if I told you to go find the Bitcoin network, right? Just anybody on the Bitcoin network, any miner or whatever, it's like, where do you go? And right now, whether you're Bitcoin or Ethereum or insert chain name here, there's some domain, right? It is that is like was considered to be the initial seed, and then once you get to that, you talk to one of the nodes, then you can discover all of the nodes of that network, and then it becomes highly decentralized after that point. But to find the message, the route to first node is like a really difficult problem that I don't think anybody has really solved at this point. And to be honest, I'm not sure there is a selection, because it requires the internet, and the internet is designed from the ground up to be centralized, right? Its entire architecture is designed that kind of way. So I think the best way that I've thought of doing this is that is to have a registrar, so to speak, of a specific, like, but no matter how you do it, it's even if you do it that way, it's still going to be like problematic, because even if you have a certain IP address, well, that IP address can be actually shut down as well as a domain name, right? Because the IP address is owned by AWS, or Verizon is providing you the IP address, or AT&T or whatever it is. So it's like that stuff is like very hard to get around, to be honest with you. The more I think about it, the harder it gets. Like, I keep on thinking of like solutions, then I realize, then there's the other angle around that. Yeah, I was just ranting for a little bit there, but that's the hardest part about it. In my mind, the cleanest solution to this problem, that isn't 100%, but as close as I can think of to get it, is to have a downloadable app, that you download once. You can pull it from like GitHub or, whatever, just download it. And then inside that app is an app store, right? Minus the store part, but it's kind of like an app store. And you could download, THORSwap and swap.thorchain.org or whatever, STO. You could just select these things and download a tarball or a zip file, to use it in more layman's terms, that is all verified with hashes and this kind of stuff. And that stuff you don't download from an individual server, you download it through BitTorrent, because BitTorrent is probably the most successfully decentralized protocol we've ever seen in mankind, in my opinion. BitTorrent itself is like so clean and so well done and designed from a decentralization perspective. It is so good. More so than Bitcoin, I would even say, to be honest with you. And so, but you need this funny thing of like, you in order for something to be decentralized, you need to pay for your usage. This is, I think people forget all the time.
Yeah.
If you are using something for free, somebody else is paying the cost of providing that, whatever that thing is, right? And then those people who are paying for that can stop paying for it. And all of a sudden, your usage of that thing goes away. If you can't use something because somebody else stopped paying for it, I don't think that's decentralization. I think that's a little bit far. And that's what's happening when you deploy a smart contract, right? Is that the developer is paying money in gas to deploy the contract itself. But each time you utilize that contract, you have to pay Ethereum to use the contract, right? You don't just use the contract for free. That's not how this works. If it did, that would be a real big. Then why are the miners, processing your transaction? What's in it for them, right? Like somebody has to get usage out of it in order for it to make sense. Somebody has to get a value out of it before it makes sense. And this is one of the biggest problems about decentralized UI, is that even if you do it correctly, the problem is that everybody who is used to a Web 2 interface where everything is free, and they don't want to use something that costs money, right? I can use Venmo for free. I can send, Denny $100 on Venmo right now. It doesn't cost me a dime. But when I transfer some Bitcoin to Denny, that costs me money, costs me fees, transaction fees. So why would I use Bitcoin over Venmo? Venmo is the free thing. And it's like, we have to get people over that hump, in my opinion, like the industry as a whole, right? We need to get people to understand that, like, in order for something to be decentralized, like the UI, you have to pay for it, and you pay for your usage of it. It's not going to be a lot of money. It's going to be like sub $1, probably, right? It's not going to be not going to break the bank, but like people are just so used to software being free and UIs being free because Web 2 kind of like spoiled people in this kind of way, and then sold you ads or whatever to make up for that freeness that wasn't actually free. Do you know?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
And like going back to my URL thing, like I mean, you made a good point. There's all these Bitcoin platforms that are on regular web addresses, and like they haven't shut any of those down, and they could shut those down. So um, it might be one of those things where it's kind of like if they want to attack Bitcoin, they can turn off the electrical grid. It's like, well, then you affect all these other things. If they want to go after THORChain and go after the URL, they affect all the other URLs on the internet because it's setting a precedent that, if you go after one, you can go after all of them. So, maybe we're fine there. So is your idea with decentralized the front end, the downloadable program, um, that's your cleanest solution to it, to have the downloadable program. So are you thinking to stop having a web app, or just have have the downloadable program in addition to?
I would love to find a way to do it within the browser, because that's, if you don't have a browser, you have to download an app. It just creates a friction
It's
layer.
Good. I'm glad you get that. It's
Yeah,
way
no,
too much
that's
friction.
definitely there. I'm not saying that's
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
And it'd be cleaner and easier to do it within the browser for obvious reasons. But that introduces a lot of problems of like, okay, what domain am I going to, right? And how decentralized is that domain? And then when I go to that domain, who am I actually talking to? Is it Kenton's server? Well, then if it's just Kenton's server, then Kenton can go away, and all of a sudden the whole thing's broken. Okay, it's a list of servers. Okay, maybe it's IPFS, right? But IPFS requires somebody to pay the bill to store the files on IPFS. Otherwise, it just gets deprioritized and goes away, right? I believe. So it's like it might be possible to, maybe through some like COSM, like WASM kind of stuff, not COSM WASM, but just WASM stuff. Maybe there's a way to doing it like in that area. I want to do more research in this sense. But like the nice thing about being local is that once it's local, you own it. It cannot be revoked or turned away. Part of the problem when I go to swap.thorchain.org is that I'm using whatever software at that time the web server is hosting. So even if you add a new feature or take away a feature that I really like, I'm kind of forced to upgrade to the latest version, which that doesn't sound very decentralized. I mean, if you're forcing me to use software that I don't want to use, I want to use a previous version where you took away that feature that I really liked, like that has to be part of the equation as well. Like I need to be able to, once I have something, that it is mine forever and nobody can take it away from me at all, right? Into the future. And so, and I can choose to upgrade to the newest version of swap.thorchain.org, or I can just stay on the current version I'm on now, right? It's up to me to decide that, not for Kenton to decide that for me, So it's complicated, but if you want to be purist about it, if you want to be precise about it, you want to be decentralization maxi about it, then I'd probably best to build a local app that you download. But maybe that's like, our also at the same time that's our moat that we build, right, as a protocol. Because if we built this kind of open platform where Uniswap or whomever can deploy their smart contract, their UIs, right, their open source UIs, and then everybody starts downloading our little app called, whatever the app is going to be called, decentralized UI app, whatever it's called. It probably shouldn't even be called THORChain something. Just leave our THORChain branding out of this. Keep our THORChain branding to a minimum. And people just download that app, and that just becomes the well-accepted thing in the industry. And then it becomes a moat that if anybody wants to build a competing blah, 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 then you have to like get people to download an entire another application. Maybe this is the reason why, what's it called? Atlas, whatever it is, the OpenAI browser has not really taken off that much because you got to download an entire new browser, which for a lot of people, they have so little interest in doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the way to be DeFi maxi about it, decentralization maxi about it. But maybe there's a way to keep it in the browser. And I do want to research that more deeply and think more deeply on it to do that. But maybe we'll offer both a local app version, which is for the maxi version, and then a slightly less maxi online version.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I mean, THORChain, in my mind, is always thought of as infrastructure. And if we can provide another service, let's do it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's great. Kenton, were you saying something? Oh, go ahead.
Talk about ossification.
You can't sit still, Chad. There's no way you're going to stop thinking, imagining.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
a pretty,
thing.
I'm a
That's a
pretty
good thing.
creative person. Like I do enjoy innovating. So I like technical challenges and solving them.
Well, like you're back to your concentrated liquidity. At first you're against it. Now you're like, well, now it might make sense because as you keep changing and improving and doing things, like THORChain keeps growing and evolving. And what might didn't make sense a couple of years ago, now it might make sense a couple of years from now. So
Yeah.
No, I 100% love I'm a decentralized maxi too, guys. Well, maybe I'm going to caveat, I guess. I believe in free speech, except for some speech. So my only hang up with having to download a friend, just like you said, Chad, just friction. And we got to make THORChain as easy as possible for people to use. And that's the trade-off. The easier it is to use, then we have centralized points on it, right? And the more decentralized we make it, the harder it's going to be for people to use. And I'm of the opinion we got to keep it easy for a while, so we can get as many users as we can.
But I can argue that that if we can be successful in getting a handful of other projects to cooperate or to combine with us in this, and we start to get a pretty common that everybody has this app downloaded, whatever the app thing is, then it becomes easy. Right?
Yeah.
Because you've already got the downloaded for the Uniswap because you like Uniswap, but now just getting THORShop's UI or THORChain's UI is just as easy as it would be in the browser.
So this app, this is a web browser app, or is it an app you download on your computer?
It's an app you download on your computer, but in some ways it kind of works like a browser in some sense that you have an interface that could become whatever application you want it to be.
So this is like, and forgive me, it's actually been a long time since I downloaded a torrent. So it's basically like these torrent. You download the torrent. I forget what it's called, but you can see all the different torrents they offer, the whole list, and you go do whatever you want. It'd be just like that.
Yeah. You would see a list of applications and you're like, that one looks cool.
Yeah.
Or even be like searchable, I'm looking for a swapping interface, whatever it is. Right. And like, here's some suggestions. And then, but like for me, the way I'm thinking about right now is that like, I don't want it to be like the internet where it's permissionless. I don't want it to be permissionless. And let me explain why that is. It's because if you want to deploy an application on this kind of like environment, right, or this platform, right, it has to go through a vetting process to ensure that it is secure and that it's not going to rug people and blah, blah, blah. It has like security confirmations, right? And maybe we do allow anybody to deploy an application, but it doesn't get the blue check mark. You know what I mean? And the blue check mark is when, say I'm Uniswap, I want to upload my Uniswap UI. I wrap it up in a tarball. I give it to the THORChain network, right? In a transaction, I upload it to THORChain network. And then I combine that with a bunch of Rune. Let's just call it like 50,000 Rune, which is like a bug bounty on my my UI that I'm uploading. The community can then review those code changes or whatever that code is and say, hey, there's a serious bug here. This could be a rug. This is that. Like it allows the whole community to come together and actually find anything and say, and then they can submit a bug report basically to the validators, and the validators will review and say, this is a good bug report. I think this person should get 2,000 Rune out of the 50,000 they were put up, or 50,000 Rune, right? Whatever it is, to ensure that people don't upload malicious things. Because if you do, you lose money, right? And to ensure that you're not going to be phishing attack or scam attack in the way we see all the time, where you go to your email, you get an email, and you click the link, and you put in your mnemonic phrase and whatever, and you get rugged. And it's like one of the biggest problems of the internet in general. And with this design and system where it's not permissionless, it requires you to upload your UI. It has to be open source for everybody to validate to make sure it's legitimate and not gonna fuck you in the ass. And we can give some level of assurances that it's a safe code base that you can actually use with a good degree of certainty that it works well.
So who? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Go ahead. No, good.
Who are the gatekeepers then of this app? Would it be the THORChain nodes, or would it be like you and a few other people?
It would be the nodes in this case. So the nodes have the ability to approve or disapprove any apps that are uploaded, and they can disapprove because of it's too similar to an app that already exists. Like somebody's trying to clone the Uniswap UI, make a couple changes, and then re-upload a second copy of it. It's just going to create kind of pandemonium and confusion in the marketplace. It could be because it's not secure. Like the way that I have this designed in my head, like your code's not even allowed to make HTTP calls outside of localhost, outside of your local computer. It's not even able to make calls remotely, because that would allow you to pull down arbitrary code potentially and rug or attack or whatever. Instead, when you want to make external calls, you have to call localhost, which only allows certain connections to the outside, right? It has to be like whitelisted connections, meaning access to a Thor node or a Bitcoin node or something like this, where you're trying to get like data about the pool depths or something like this. And there's kind of like an internal router that when you hit this port or whatever, or this pathway or whatever, it will forward to, a Thor node, which is, we know is the Thor node is like a legitimate Thor node and not there to, rug people or whatever, like, or at least have a very strong degree of confidence in it. To ensure that this is safe and secure and decentralized and all the things we wish the internet was when it was created, and not done in that kind of way. It's not safe. It's not secure. It's totally ruggable, totally have lots of surfaces for attack and also these kind of things. And to build it in a way that's gives you all those guarantees you wish you had on the internet and do that locally, I think would be pretty fantastic.
Pretty freaking cool. That's really, really cool. I love it. It says, that's all THORChain always does. We just rewrite the rules. We just start from the ground up and just build something that just changes the world. I mean, people often forget. I mean, THORChain was literally the first when it came to cross-chain swaps, but we did it right. We didn't skimp out on the first principles of the decentralized aspect. I mean, you can have people make market makers and solvers on this stuff. It doesn't even come close to what we built here. And because we followed the first principles, Chad, like, you start from the ground up in the very beginning of your YouTube videos in 2019 when you're talking about it, what you can build on top of that, you're much alluding to that. So I think there is still so much more for THORChain to do, right? We're just getting started, even though sometimes it feels like we're old men in this space. We've been through it a lot. I think honestly, we're just getting started. So I'm so bullish. I said I couldn't get any more erect, but it's about to go through my neck right now. So this is awesome. You know what I mean? Crazy.
What are you, hermaphrodite? Are you a tranny? You got your dick tucked up behind yourself?
Dude,
I got it wrapped around my body 4 times right now.
Or it's going this way.
Yeah.
It's down the throat.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I don't know. But those are the 3 things that I was just chatting with some people earlier this week, and we were kind of brainstorming. And those are the 3 things that came up that were I thought were pretty interesting. But all of them require a lot more research and obviously a lot of time and engineering and all this kind of stuff. And we have other things we're trying to ship on the roadmap, and more chains and blah 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 and all these other things. So so there's no shortage of work to do, is another way to put it.
Love it. Awesome.
I love it too. Well, is that a good? I know we're going over 2.5 hours. I always get nervous. I feel like at the 2-hour mark, I'm like, okay, I want to make sure we respect Chad's time. But that was awesome. I'm so glad you stuck around and told us about that. That's badass, Chad.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you got for us, good sir?
Yeah.
There was a Solana thing. There was a double spend, but we've already pushed an update for that, right? I should have mentioned that a long time ago. I totally skipped my mind on that.
Yeah. No. There was a bug where there was a double spend because of there's an instant observation functionality in Bifrost that wasn't functioning correctly for Solana. So we got a bug patch coming out. I think it's already out actually.
Yeah.
For 3.16.4 that patches that, and we'll get resume on the Solana thing after that point.
Oh, I just remembered, Chad, didn't you put a post about ADR 25? I'm
Oh
behind on
yeah,
Discord.
another.
Maybe
That's right. Another thing.
we should probably touch on that.
Be like,
Um,
get ready for 4 hours, boys. Let's go.
I mean, it's not a big it's not a big ADR. It's really just more housekeeping. So like, all it really is that right now the Nine Realms is receiving the dev fund, the 5% system income that's going to the dev fund. It's going to a wallet that Nine Realms controls, and they're not sticking around much longer. I think they got, I'm not sure how many days left it is, 20 days, 30 days, something like this. I'm not sure how many, 2 weeks, something like this. And obviously we just want that rune that's currently going in NetRealms just to stay within the protocol. And so it's just going to a wallet that myself and Marcel and Alex control. And that money would go in there, and then we would use that money to pay, devs and whatever we need to get paid for this. I mean, in some ways you can think of this as that this is going to be like the new treasury in a matter of speaking. Like, we'll spend from here first and then go to the treasury. The treasury will then take up whatever's required after that point. But hopefully the idea is on the long scale, on the long term, is that this dev fund will make enough money that it can pay all the things that it needs to pay for, to fund developers and marketing and dashboards and whatever, data sourcing of this, blah blah blah. I don't know, Telegram bots, whatever we need as a community.
Perfect. Love it. Awesome. Was there something else, Chad? I think I interrupted you maybe when I switched to Solana, or was
there's a talk. This is like a small thing, but I think it's kind of nice. Of changing it so that when you're an active node in a bond provider, you can withdraw your yield, not the principal, which you put into it, but you can draw whatever yield you produced as a way of, like, you can take profits without having to like churn out and then take profits and then churn back in. That seems like it makes sense. Like, it's not really that big, like, it's not a security issue that much. Like, I don't consider being withdraw a little bit of money as like a big risk to, like, from a security perspective, but it just allows people to be able to take profits when they want to take profits rather than have to wait to churn out or forcing themselves to churn out.
well, how would you? So in my mind, when I envision this, I don't know if you remember, I brought this up a few years ago. Is that the bond provider could set a percentage of what yield they want to take, and every churn, like let's say I set my percentage at 100, every churn I would get 100% of my yield. I'd go back to my address. If I set it at 50%, I would get half my yield. And then, but it'd have to be every churn, because then after the churn, my yield goes to my principal, and then my principal is fixed on the bond. Or are you thinking you keep track of the yield from when the BP first went into the node?
Yeah. The way
Okay.
the way it would work in my mind, although it could change with other ideas or whatever, is that every time we churn and your bond provider, makes some quantity of rune, it increments a number starting at 0, and then it goes to 1,000 rune. I'm making up a number here. And then that's how much you can withdraw. So you can do an unbond up to 1,000, but then the next churn, might add another 1,000. So now you can do 2,000, but you can't unbond more than that, just whatever. And then you can unbond 1,000 of the 2,000, right? Or whatever. And so every time we churn, that number just increases. And every time you unbond, that number decreases.
Okay, nice. Okay, I like that. Well, but you would have, well, I guess, and then if we wanted it automated, that'd be Ruggiero could come in and do something. They could do a smart contract.
Yeah, if you want to automate it, you could do a cron on your laptop. You could do a Ruggiero thing if you want to do a Ruggiero thing. Or even, we could do what you're saying, like, we'll just say like 50% or, to automate it on the protocol level.
Well, my way, you have less, you're kind of fixed, right? You're kind of stuck. Like maybe you don't want to collect your yield for 6 months, but then you want to take one lump sum. You couldn't do that on my way. But my way I was thinking about it, just kind of bigger picture, like, and this is how I sold it to my clients and investors, is that long term, like, this is a passive income play, right? And all bond providers are going to want to collect that yield, and they're going to want to be paid out regularly, right? So I think for now, most BPs, everyone's happy to um, compound their position. But yeah, if we give people a way to get some recurring revenue, like just automatic, they don't have to go manually do it all the time. They can just set it up. That I think that yes, Ruji's smart contract would work great. The rune, they can pull out the rune. Maybe when it gets to a certain value, when it gets to a few grand, pull out my rune, convert it to stables, send it to my address, something like that.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
I like
Yeah.
it.
I know runebond.com would be very interested in doing that. If that functionality comes, they want to support it ASAP. So I think it's a good idea because that is a complaint that you hear often, right? That is very much. Or
Can
STL.
can
Yeah.
I ask you something? I like this is a little thing. Can we? How hard? Maybe now that you have Hugin helping you, can we delete when an address is whitelisted to a node but has 0 rune on it? You can't delete it until a node is churned out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the node is churned in. Could you make it so that we can delete it if it has 0 rune? We can just delete the address from the node.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a managing some nodes, it's extremely annoying having to wait to churn out to delete an address to keep things. I know this is what we call it P5. Like this does nothing. It's just pure convenience. But I don't know if that's something easy now with Hugin you can throw at it and maybe.
Yeah, I could throw that at Hugin. Like, just create a GitLab issue, assign it to Hugin. He'll take care of it at some point.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Shout out to Hugin. Let's shout out to Hugin. I love
Hugin's
Hugin.
pretty sick, man. He's doing his
Hugin,
thing.
yeah, dude. Fuck, incredible Hugin. Like, man, I don't want to talk about Hugin because I'll keep you boys here a long time. But I'm just neurotically watching the Hugin feed all the time. I'm addicted, man. Like,
Did you guys-
into my veins.
Did you hear about the whole Mythos thing? You heard about that?
No, what's that?
This is crazy. So, this happened last week. So I wasn't here when I wasn't here to discuss. So Claude Anthropic apparently had accidentally exposed some. This is another thing like I was just joking before about AI making dumb mistakes, and another example. Claude accidentally exposed like 3,000 documents, on a public server that they didn't mean to do so. And one of those documents was a blog post that was for a future blog post to be published later in some. I think it was designed to be in Q3 for a new Claude model called Mythos, and it's not Haiku or Sonnet or Opus. It's a new model above Opus. It's an entire new model that is so good and so powerful that they haven't released it because they're terrified that it would basically destroy the internet, because it's so good at finding security exploits and attacking online services that to release it now would be releasing a nuclear bomb effectively against the internet that anybody can now grab and start breaking into, various websites and
Holy shit.
shit. So like it is, and OpenAI also has one of these. They call it Spud in their system, which is why OpenAI has canceled Sora and their like AI generated porn and a bunch of other smaller products, because this new model is so absurdly expensive to run. It requires so much inference that the rumor is, we don't know this for sure, but the rumor is that it's going to cost $2,000 per month to get access to the super advanced model. Right? So this is it's real, like this is a real model that and Anthropic has come out and acknowledged that that blog post is a real blog post that they were, so it's not like just Twitter conspiracy or whatever. It's actually legitimately real. And so right now, the model is being tested by a bunch of security engineers around the world to probably test it against very important software like OpenSSL, for example, Linux kernel, Nginx, HA proxy, like these infrastructures, like open source free infrastructure that is critically used in the entire internet that it has to be very secure. So they're like running it against that infrastructure first before they launch it publicly for people like myself to gain access to. And so I've already had conversations with the security team about like when this model comes out, whenever data's coming out, there's a decent chance, depending upon, we'll look at it when it comes out, but there's a decent chance that we're just going to pause trading and pause signing on the entire protocol just in an abundance of caution before we, before, and then get access to the model, verify our code is, good, right? There's no significant problems, and then go ahead and resume trade because this sounds like it's not just like an improvement, but an entire step change above everything we've ever seen before.
Wow.
And that's getting released in the probably next few months, right? Depending on how long they want to spend trying to validate or secure the rest of the internet or whatever. Like this is pretty astounding from what the data we've seen so far, which is very little to be fair, but pretty astounding. And I'm very excited and very scared of what this thing can do. And that's going to be up. We're going to probably, assuming it's feasible, we'll bring it in to Hugin, and this will be Hugin's new model that it operates on. And it'll be start doing some sick shit.
That's incredible.
Interesting time.
Yeah. Or we can use it against open source competitors of ours. Just kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
Let's attack Maya.
Oh man. Oh jeez. I don't know what
lost Kenton.
We lost Kenton. Well, that happens sometimes. Well, that's really, really interesting. Oh my gosh. So yeah, and dude, if you got to pause a network to that, I think everyone's gonna be more than fine with it. I mean, if it sounds like an entire exponential increase of capability, that is that makes my heart beat. That's really intense. Just on Hugin does alone. Go ahead.
So the other thing to talk about is almost 3 hours now, but there's so much to talk about.
It's okay.
Is that's okay with you?
Well, yeah.
Is that we've kind of decided internally that we're going to get rid of the bug bounty program on THORChain temporarily, at least for a year. The problem is that we're getting tons more submissions now, and a lot of it is AI slop, and it's just consuming a lot of our manual time or like human time trying to validate these things one by one. And a lot of these things are just finding things that humans already found, right? And so I think the mentality we're having is that let's get our AI Hugin to be our bug bounty program effectively, which is it's been doing a really good job since January, to be honest. And we'll focus our THORSec team on, improving our invariance and getting DKLS rolled out and other things that's adding benefit to the protocol, rather than just being bogged down with, a bunch of AI slop being thrown at us through various individuals. Not to say that all of it's AI slop, some of it's really good, but like majority of it is.
No, I think that's totally normal. I mean, that's a consequence of, because everyone's trying to siphon some value. They just taken an AI model and they're throwing it at the code base and they're just hoping they strike gold, and they want to claim that. So yeah, the AI slop, I mean, I can only imagine how time consuming that is for you guys. I mean, we already have our own AI model, Hugin, and you are on it. You are keeping up to date. The latest version, you're always having it work. So yeah, what about the tokens? Go ahead.
I want to ask Chad, I'm actually glad you brought it up, because I was just curious. I have a question about the bug bounty thing. So like, so for example, like with the SEO and everything I'm doing, like with articles and getting them published, like they're already clamping down on AI generated content, and they run it through like filters and stuff. And, the internet, everyone's already, fighting back against AI. I'm curious with the bug bounty stuff, is there a way you could do that as well, and when somebody submits something, you run it through something to see if it's, like you're saying, it's AI. Obviously you can figure that out. Can we, instead of removing the bug bounty altogether, can we just say we're not accepting AI bug bounties? These got to be human generated bounties, and that way we still keep the door open for like a real white hat to kind of help us. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how we would achieve that. I know you can detect AI like writing, like if I write a poem or write a blog article, there are some things you can do to test that. I don't know how practical that is with code, like submissions of, of bug issues. I don't know how practical that is to detect whether something is or is not AI. We presume it's AI slot because the quantity is much higher. We're just getting since like December, we just got a huge influx, and a lot of it is just finding the same shit that Hugin's finding, so we're just getting to a place where it's just too time consuming. Now we could do a thing where Hugin starts reviewing the bug submissions instead of humans reviewing it. Maybe that's the way to go. At least then you can filter out, some large percentages of them by validating. Oh, I got this email that's describing some exploit. Hugin can go in and validate that and see if that's actually true or not. Or what the ramifications or prioritize it, a P0 or a P5, right, in terms of severity. And then if it's above a P1 or above, then send it to our security team. We could do it that way as well, but I think it's not even worth the time to build that, to be honest with you, and let Hugin do what it's doing already and clean up our code, and we'll do the same thing with Mythos or Spud when that comes out, downstream. But like, it just seems like the entire security engineer industry is being kind of flopped on its head, and it's going to be harder and harder as somebody who finds bugs for money to do that. Even though they have this really powerful tool, the developers of the thing you're trying to exploit also have that same tool, and so all of a sudden, everybody's code is going to be 5 times more secure than it was yesterday because of Spud and Mythos and whatever this new advanced tool is, making it 5 times more difficult as a human to find a legitimate issue,
So I'm back to that Mythos. It just got me wondering, like, oh, okay, are we supposed to trust these guys, Mr. Altruists, that they're protecting the world, or do they want a 3-4 month head start on using it themselves? To go find stuff on the internet before they share it with everyone else.
Well, yeah,
Um,
there's good reason to be concerned about that, right? And you can argue, like, if I was Anthropic, I can make a capitalistic argument that I don't want the most advanced model to be public. I want
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I want my
Yeah.
model because I want to use my advanced model for me and improve my models with my model, right? This is called recursive self-improvement. And if you have a really advanced model that allows you to do recursive self-improvement, you don't release that shit. You just keep it internally so that you can build super fast internally, right? And this is why Claude Code has released like 50 features, in like 40 days or something, whatever the hell the number is. It's something crazy like this, because they're probably using Mythos internally to be able to generate a lot of code in a very short period of time. And it's done fairly well for the most part, excluding them leaking all their code, for the second time. But yeah, there's argument there, right? But at the same time, it's like, if you can build a really advanced model, then OpenAI, your competitor, can also build it the same for your, and so how are they keeping it internally and you're keeping yours internally, or are they going to release it? And all of a sudden your model, that's not your top model, but like your second to top model, looks like shit because their model is way over here, right? And so now I have to release my model to give an equivalency so I don't die as an organization. So there's like so much, strategizing, gaming that you could, game theory you could play on all this. And the fact that Anthropic and OpenAI have super advanced models that they have not released publicly because they're both fucking terrified of how it can be used as a very significant weapon, tells me, and these people are highly motivated to release it. It's very profitable when and if they do. They really want to release these models because it's going to be really good for their business, especially when like you have people like OpenAI who's committed to $1.15 trillion in spending over the next 10 years and only make about 20 billion or 30 billion, whatever the hell the number is right now, right? Like that's a little bit scary, right, from a business perspective. So they have every reason to do it, and the fact that they're not doing it that terrifies me, right? Because they're actually being responsible, right? When it makes sense, financial sense to not be responsible, right? And like in general, like, and with every technology, whether it be AI or nuclear fusion, any technology can always be wielded for good or for bad, right? And it's always the equivalency between the 2 points. However good something can be for society, it can be equally and opposite as bad for society, right? You can use nuclear fission to split the atom and power an entire city, or you can use it to blow up an entire city and destroy an entire city. Both are very, very, intense of what they can do. So if you have this model that is this good at destroying the internet, in theory, it should have an equal and opposite positive value to it, and its ability for me to produce more software or make it more plausible that I can actually build this decentralized UI thing that I was talking about earlier, because now I have even smarter models, and I can, agent this motherfucker and build lots of shit at the same time, with super advanced models. Like, it just empowers me even further to achieve more for the protocol.
I think
That's
this. Sorry,
sorry.
Kenton. I think this. I gotta say it. I think this is the slam dunk for the argument. You need to have your token limit totally unlocked, because if you think there's a super advanced model, the moment it comes out, it can find exploits. In defense of that is to get our subpar Hugin. Obviously, it's subpar, burning all the time to find as much as it can, right? And hopefully it'll stumble. And whereas this new advanced model might find it like this. Go ahead, Kenton.
That should actually, I'm thinking of something else now. Back to, you're talking about Amazon, threatening their devs. You got to be using AI 80% of the time. And I heard Brian Armstrong from Coinbase say he fired one of his devs for not using AI. The rest got the message. We should, handshake deal. We should make this part of the deal with AR25 that, when we move the money, I mean, we have to do it, obviously. But you guys taking over the dev fund, you got to sign up. This $2,000 a month AI. You have to do it. We have to be using the top AI at all times, right?
Yes.
And if it's $2,000 a month, it's $2,000 a month. We got to pay it. We got to do it. Because if we don't, our competition is, or the people that want to hurt us are. And I'd way rather see Chad using it than someone we don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I got to think the community would see that and appreciate that we got to put money towards that.
I mean, $2,000 a month. I mean, come on, for the ultimate defense. I mean, that's not a lot, right? Relative to
No,
what
I think
we do.
how it's structured in this particular moment is that every developer pays for their own AI. Like, I pay for my AI, and StarSquid pays for his AI, which is just like $100 a month or $200 a month or whatever the subscription is. And none of us really use the API one where you're paying for every token, because it's just exorbitantly expensive, right? And to be fair, like, Hugin is running 24/7, and he's he hasn't hit the cap in a while, because I changed some of its behavior. That when there's already so many tickets to already so many things to do, there's not much point in finding more things to do. It just let us catch back up, and because again, AI is moving at 1,000 miles per hour. Humans are moving at 30 miles per hour. And so the reason why Hugin's not doing more is because it's my fault and the rest of the devs' fault, because we're just not as fast as Hugin, and we can't just stay up, unless we just stop reviewing code, which I'm not really interested in doing that, at least not in the current moment, and probably not anytime soon, but maybe one day that's possible. But right now, certainly not. And so we have to review everything, and that just becomes the limiting factor.
As long as you're at max output, that's fine, right? That's
we are operating as fast as possible,
right?
And we're using AI as much as reasonably possible in this particular moment. Running agents and doing like 6 tabs with 6 different agents, which some people do, doesn't make sense for us, because we have to have humans in the loop of every step in stage. Nothing gets merged without at least 2 humans approving every code change that's made, right? At bare minimum 2. Whereas other projects who are starting new and have no user base and have very little risk, they can go ahead and vibe code without reviewing code all they want, because the stakes are low. Doesn't really matter, right? But in THORChain world, we've got hundreds of millions of dollars that we're securing. We cannot just be like, vibe coding our way through everything. Doesn't mean we can't use AI. I use AI all the time. It just means that, like, everything I do with the AI, I have to go back and read whatever it produces and verify that it makes sense. And we have at least 2 other people also do the same thing.
Makes sense to me. Kenton, were you saying something? Oh, go ahead.
And humans also reviewing everything too. So you still have AI doing the reviews in addition to the humans, which is much better than just the humans.
I think that's like I've never agreed with the idea that AI is going to make a few billion people obsolete. I think it's going to enable a few billion people. And like, the more I use it, it's just the more you use AI and you realize what you can do, the more ideas you get. And so the more you can imagine and think about and create, the more you're going to do with AI. But it's still, like you said, you still have to review it. So we still need a human to review it. We can come up and create all these things, like you said, 6 different tabs going. Well, now we need 6 different humans to review all those things to make sure they're right. And so, like, I just, yeah, I think this is going to create jobs. It's going to create jobs and wealth at the same time. And like, actually, Elon talks about universal high income, whatever. And actually, I like that's making sense. So, like, the limiting factor on this is just going to be people's imagination.
Yeah.
And it's going to unlock so many interesting things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Elon talks about, like, if you make $100,000 now, in the future, it would be the equivalent of making $30,000 because everything becomes a lot more cheap because there's much more competition because anybody can compete with you easily. And you don't need as many employees, and everything AI does things faster anyway and cheaper anyways, and overnight and the weekends, and
Yeah.
24/7. And so all of a sudden, a lot of services we use now, become a lot cheaper to produce, and therefore the prices get a lot cheaper and the competition gets tighter, right? A lot more competition. So so Elon kind of says, like, you don't even need to be saving in a 401k. I strongly disagree with that statement. You should be building your 401k. You should be very conservative when it comes to your long-term financial health. But he could be absolutely right in this context, and that everything we use right now just becomes so much cheaper.
Well, if we had an actual sound monetary system, like we lived in a free market wet dream, that's all you'd have to do is just save your money, and it would go up in value based on the purchasing power going up. The cost of everything else around you would go down. So you wouldn't have, and this is what's so criminal about it, is that because of inflation, you are forced to invest your savings, put your savings at risk to try and earn a yield that is higher than the inflation rate. And what happens is most people actually end up losing. They'd probably just be better off just holding their cash and losing to inflation. And so, but if you actually do manage to make money and beat the inflation rate on your investments, guess what? Capital gains tax. Got to get you one more time. Oh, that's not enough? Inheritance tax. We're going to get you when you die. It's extremely difficult to build and save capital in this fiat monetary system we have. So, like, it's good we have crypto right now, because the only way we're going to truly benefit all these cost savings is if we have sound money that won't inflate away on us. We need to have that sound that anchor that's fixed. So yeah. Sorry guys, ranting. This is one thing. This is why I'm in crypto. The central banking is just like, it gets me, and this is how we fight back. And yeah, it'll be cool.
Birds of the same feather, my friend.
Yep.
We all believe the same things. That's why we're all here. We're fighting. I mean, it's Runa, of course, is an investment for me, but there is a deeper meaning behind it, and it's the ultimate meaning, right? So I love it so much. Very good. Okay, guys, what do you think? We got more, Chad? Stay as long as you want.
We're 3 hours in.
I will stay longer if need be. You got some more.
Danny, my time is fine. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, no one cares about you, Kenton.
Kenton, you can leave.
No, of course,
you already did.
No.
We didn't invite you back.
Yeah.
No, I think that's probably. I mean, I don't know if we're boring the audience at this point.
No. People love this stuff. More the better. I just, this is, we're individual people and we got lives and stuff. But if you want to ever do an 8-hour space and we just keep going, so be it. Live stream, go for it. But
yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was when we originally started these, Denny. It was just like, we're just going to go as long as it goes.
Yeah.
There's no.
Because we had that Q&A at the end, and people would come up and ask lots of questions. And we,
Yeah.
you know, the last like 30 minutes or an hour was just random Q&A from, you know, community members. So, and we're still down for that, by the way, community members. If you got a question, do you want to? You're welcome to challenge me too. Like I like a challenge. I like respectful debates. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, come to Las Vegas, guys. We can chat in person. I swear, every time when we get in person and all, like at first it's just 3 dudes up here talking. When you get 12, 20, 30, 40 people who know this stuff and we're all just going at it, I mean, I really feel like we get some really awesome things.
Are they all going to get as erect as you, or just you?
No way. No way. They are not as passionate as me when it comes to THORChain. No, I don't want to scare anybody. So
the entry to get in wherever we meet will be wearing tight pants.
Yeah. You need a shield down there. You know what I mean?
You need to bring tight pants and a hooker in order to get in. That's the entry fee.
Awesome. All right, guys. I think we'll wrap it up there. Sound good? I'll go ahead and get this outro going. What do you guys say?
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. This has been such a fun conversation, you guys. Always remember, guys, shine up. We got that Bitcoin Las Vegas, April 27th, 7 p.m. Come hang out. We're even more fun in real life, and I'm looking forward. I haven't even met Kenton in real life yet. I chat with him all the time. I'm going to meet him in the real life for the first time. I'm very excited for that. So I hope to meet you guys as well. As a reminder, guys, if you'd like to become a node operator, or if you know somebody who you think would like to become a node operator, reach out to @RuneTard on X. He can help you get set up and find bond providers, guys. Super important that we increase our decentralization. For the latest on THORChain data and insights, follow @RayAnalytics on X. He does also the written recaps for this live streams as well. He's going to have some work to do on this podcast. This has been a long one, so I hope he gets all the erection parts too. It's very important context for people to understand.
Cut those and put it on our TikTok.
Yeah, very, very important.
You just talking about your erection.
That's it. And that's it. It's just a cut, erection. I think I had like 4 or 5 erection segments here.
It'll go viral. Trust me. It's going to go viral.
Absolutely. That's what and people only know THORChain for erection stuff. That's all it is, buddy.
Everybody's coming here to hear from you.
Coming here, indeed. Yes.
No one wants to hear me. They want to hear you talking about erections.
I don't know about that, but we can roll with it. And always remember, you guys, the views expressed are solely those of the hosts and guests. Any action taken based on this information is at your own risk. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and that also is true of erections. That's going to wrap it up, you guys. I hope you guys had a wonderful time with us. We had a wonderful time with you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.